Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Good morning.
Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Go freshy.
Uko salama?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Could be better,
You could be better.
but all things considered, Alhamdulillah.
True.
Yep.
Yeah.
Kwaji?
I mean, uko salama. I don't know. It's just really heavy. How feeling yesterday, and just looking at pictures of parents, coming to school, coming to Tumishi school yesterday, and praying that it was not their daughter,
Their children.
who was affected like this.
Yeah.
And just going through those over and over, and I said, oh my God, that here we are.
Yesterday was a heavy day because I was doing 1 p.m. At some point, we saw images of a parent who had been at the institution since morning, never received any information, and decided to want to go over the fence.
Oh, yes,
The
the gentleman.
perimeter wall, that
Yes,
gentleman,
yes,
He was like, I've been here since morning, no information is getting to me. You guys need to tell us the truth so that we know exactly what is happening, because at the time, there was no information, because I remember even speaking to Francis Ontomo, who was there, and he was saying, information is scanty, as at 2 p.m., even the bodies, unfortunately, we have to say that, but the bodies of the 16 had not yet been removed from the scene. Then there is a parent, there's the parents as well who were traveling to go see the daughter. They got into an accident. The mother of the child died. The father is in hospital.
Yani, I don't know.
And it's just whirlwind of emotions, left, right, center, Yeah.
Can you imagine? Where do you even start from in that case? You're going to see if your daughter is alive.
Yeah.
Then you get into an accident, and then there's more death.
Yeah.
May God help us.
May God help us.
Because, no.
To the family, poleni sana. To government, we can do better.
Yeah,
We can do better.
Yeah.
Because I went through the accidents or the fire incidents in schools from way back, and you ask yourself, with all these reports after investigations, why are we still seeing this happen today?
I don't know. And, the thing is that, of course, we know that, investigations are taking place. We did see DCI boss Mohammed Amin there. Deputy Inspector General of Police Eliud Lagat was there. Douglas Kanja at some point. The thing is that they're trying to find out what happened. But also, we know that and I don't want to call them famous, but I want to know that notable school fires that took place, that there were certain recommendations thereafter to ensure that certain things then happened in a setting, especially in the dormitories. And there's certain things that we talk about today, and that there shouldn't, if those grills, you don't need them on windows.
No.
If there was overcrowding, in terms of a door locking, you should not be able to only lock a dorm door from the outside. Many things like this that we then unfortunately look over, and it is not a time to start pointing fingers of blame. That it's not the time for that. But we cannot run away from the reality that perhaps certain things could have been done to ensure that such a catastrophe, at least the severity of it, would have been reduced.
Yeah, I think just to talk about that, because it's a fire incident, we need to also start asking ourselves in schools, especially boarding schools, or rather just in schools, when is the last time a fire drill ever happened? Do children know what to do in case of an emergency?
Yeah.
In these buildings that we are setting up that are 2-3 stories going up, do we have emergency exits for children?
And do they know?
Do they know how to use them? Do they know how to access these doors for them to go outside? Because I gave an example yesterday. If you pass outside Staria Boys, you will see on those stories there is stairs that lead from behind those buildings. So in case of an emergency, there is clearly an exit way for the students? Are these the standards that we are overlooking in setting up these institutions and these buildings?
Yeah, I think it's unfortunate that something of this nature has to happen. And that then will serve as a reminder for everybody else. And like I said, call it what you may, but one of the things that Wilson Sossion talks about all the time is the quality assurance, whether it is in teaching or whether it is in amenities, and we keep saying, come on guys, where are we checking things like this? And I know when something like this happens is then we all then become the moral police, and then we say, you should have, shouldn't have. I know, but it still does not. It still serves an opportunity to for a reminder in terms of, come on, not just government, but the folks in the institutions setting up these things. And some of the things that came up on Chatter yesterday was, why can't parents see the dorms?
Yeah.
Every time, and I thought about that, I was like, oh snap, wait a minute, it's true. Why are parents not allowed to see where their children sleep?
You know why?
Why?
Because most of the time, dormitories are not the most sanitary places, and a parent would not, institutions would not want to show parents that side of the school. And
then there's a problem then.
Then there's a problem.
Yeah.
There is a problem.
Yeah. And so a lot of things come out.
Yeah.
And until today, and Russia.
And Russia, still under investigation.
Still under investigation.
Under investigation, yeah.
3 years later, we've not heard anything about that.
Yeah.
But this is the same. The nature is similar in terms of what happened, and here we are still with another one. I mean, my God, in times like this, again, we will not play the moral police, but that it serves as a reminder that the basic mundane things that we think, oh well, it really doesn't matter. When a tragedy like this happens, then the basic mundane things matter.
Yeah, because I'm looking at the oldest incident in Kenya was St. Kizito in 1991, and the latest was yesterday. And all these incidences have come up with reports. Some have ended up in court, e.g. the Mungai girls situation. With all these reports, what are we doing with them? Is it just another Kenyan story of reports spending time on shelves gathering dust, and there is zero implementation,
and people have died? It's a heavy the heavy thoughts that especially when we have death and injury, and then in addition to that, more death. May God come down, because it's not easy to deal with.
It's not.
And the skies are looking pretty grey this morning. But it's our hope that even through this, there can be a sliver of hope, I just cannot imagine what families are going through at this time. And our thoughts are with them. And that somewhere in this chaos, somehow, there will be even an iota of an opportunity to build again. I can't, it's impossible to imagine how you start.
Yeah.
But starting again is not impossible. That's God, that's the truth. And so our hearts are with them. And you're right, that we can all do better.
Yeah.
We can. And so on this 29th day of March, of May, it's interesting that I just saw something also that the last fire that happened also happened on the day of the National Prayer Breakfast. So we woke up to that reality as well. So, and I'm going to ask that question again. What if we actually prayed? What if we actually prayed and meant it? Can you imagine what would actually come out of that? We have conversations this morning on the Situation Room, and we will not shy back from talking about these things that matter. So, good morning once again. Nduh and Dennis here with you this morning. If he is here, I'm just getting into it. Karibuni sana, everybody, as we get into it. Our live streams are indeed up on YouTube, Facebook, and on X, and we see you creeping into the room this morning. So, Karibu sana, our audience on KTN, thank you for joining us that way. And for everybody who tunes into radio around the country, the region, and the world, we will comfort the afflicted, and we will afflict the comfortable. These are the conversations that we'll have. And let's get into some of what those will be today. So we're going to start off our conversation at 7 o'clock. We should have had him on Monday, but I beg your pardon, on Wednesday, but he'll be here this morning. Wakili. Okay. So, our conversations today, we will talk at 8 o'clock with former Senator Gloria Orwoba. National prayers amidst deaths of students. Where should it go? We'll have this conversation at 8 and we'll talk about it and we'll talk about it properly. All right. 7 o'clock, we're probably going to have a conversation with you guys today, and we're going to ask, and the questions are coming up, is it time to start fading out boarding schools? Because is it something else that has come up as a result of this conversation? So we'll get into that just a little bit. We'll come and talk with you around that at 7 o'clock. Gloria Orwoba joins us then at 8 o'clock today. And our conversation this morning, then at 9 o'clock, will be with Ansel Minor, who is a founder of the Africa Consumer Advocacy Foundation, and Dr. Karaoke Michael, Secretary General of the Harm Reduction Society of Kenya. World Tobacco Day 2026 is our conversation for 9 a.m. It's our Healthy Friday conversation today. Place of science in tobacco control. There apparently is a science behind it, and we're going to be looking into that today. All right, so that's it. We're gonna talk boarding school at 7, and we're going to then talk, this tragedy and national prayers at 8, and then we'll look into tobacco at 9. That's what it looks like this morning. Karibuni sana as we get into it today. All right.
Yep.
Where are we, Gabo?
Still Gabo. Our proverb, simple but deep. However black a cow is, the milk is always white.
However
black a cow is, the milk is always white.
Don't judge a book by its cover, man. As you see me like this, don't think I'm just gentle. I can be mad.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm joking. But yeah, don't judge a book by its cover, or that if something is to be, that is how it is. And you look at something and don't expect that something good can come out of it.
Yeah.
Something good can come out of it. That is the constant. That's the color.
Yeah. I think I would also look at it in terms of you reap exactly what you sow. Don't expect to plant mangoes and reap bananas. No. A cow is a cow. A cow produces milk.
Exactly.
Never expect that a cow...
In fact, this is the nice thing about the human mind. That when somebody else starts to talk, then you can change your opinion. If you see this cow, no matter if it is grey, black, blue, whatever, what will come out of it is white milk.
White milk.
So don't expect something else to come out of something that's dead from the beginning.
Yes.
Well, however it looks, that is what is going to come out of it.
True.
So don't look at a cow and think that it's going to produce oranges.
No. It's never, ever going to happen. Yeah. Don't expect that a white cow will give you water.
Yeah.
Never. Ni hayo tu kwa sasa.
Okay. That's true. So it'll be interesting to see what folks have to say about that as we get into it today. So let's say good morning to you. Thank you for tuning in every morning as you do. And I know that sometimes things are heavy, but we're going to talk about these things anyway. And yikes, at some point, we're also going to look at the fact that the Katiba Institute has gone to court. And they did that really quickly yesterday under a certificate of urgency. And they said that, first of all, we are going to stop this purported thing of Ebola patients being quarantined coming into Kenya. We saw PS Ouma Oluga say a number of interesting things yesterday, as we did see PS Muthoni say a number of more interesting things yesterday. Yeah. Whether they made sense to you or not.
Kenyans were equally saying a lot of
many interesting things yesterday. It'll be interesting to see how the courts pronounce themselves. They'll probably do that because we know certificate of urgency. You'll probably see an answer about that today. But this one, Kenyans are not taking it lying down, sitting, standing, jumping, anyhow. They're not taking it at all. And they're saying that surely. And it's interesting because even anybody who would normally support something like this have been extremely silent.
Yeah.
So I was saying, it doesn't matter what side you're on. Such a thing doesn't make sense. So let's see what it will look like. But Kenyans have said, what? Absolutely not. That's where they are. Okay, so let's say good morning to you as we get into it this morning. Thank you for tuning in. Like we said, where our live streams are. And thank you so much every day, as you do. If we can just get the technology to behave itself. All right, here we go. A very good morning to you. And as usual, as you tune in today, we're glad that you can do that from whatever part of the world you're doing so from. The Situation Room tuned is Laban Motaroki. Good morning to you. Robert Mbogo is tuning from Mombasa and says, happy Friday. Well, We pray for that. Peter Chiari says, good morning from Mombasa. Proverbs 22:6, he says, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he's old, he will not depart from it. Okay. Is there a lesson in this? Is there something that you're pointing us to, I guess is the question, Chiari. Good morning to you either way. Leo says, hello, Princess Nduh and Aseto. The motherland mourns again as disregard for safety of kids in dorms reigns supreme. The administration of the day follow the same stern, wary script as usual. Nick Bala says, we've had school dormitory fires before and recommendations made to ensure students' safety. We've had this. It has happened before. Why don't stakeholders implement the measures to curtail these painful deaths? And I think this is some of the things that we'll be talking about. Yeah, and just from the thing that you don't want parents to come and see the dorms because, like you're saying, they're in dilapidable state. Yeah. So is that the case? Dilapidated. Or what? Or they're crowded, and you know that in case of a fire, it will be disastrous? Or what?
Imagine walking into a dormitory. You expect that it's a double decker, then you find it's a triple decker. Now think of a grade 10 on top of that decker. There is fire. How do they start running away? It's the little things.
It's the little things, I'm telling you. It's the little things that we ignore over and over again that turn out to be the big tragedies.
Yeah.
I'm just going to do this really quickly. A story of a gentleman, not even a story. Yeah. I watched a documentary about a guy. His day job in I think it's Bulgaria.
Yeah.
Is to go into this factory and switch flip a switch.
Yeah.
When he gets in at 8, maybe somebody's done it before, to flip a switch and then to ensure that the action has begun, and then he leaves. He comes back 4 hours later because by then the switch would have flipped off automatically. But then he must go back after 4 hours and put it on again and make sure that the thing is running. And then he must go back 4 hours after that and do it and then fill in a form to ensure that he has done it for the day. That's his job. This is what he does.
Yeah.
Now, the documentary was explaining, in the event that he doesn't do that and log so that you can trace who did it, the effects would be disastrous in terms of what would happen in that factory. So it's mundane, it's silly. You ask yourself, what on earth am I doing going into this place? That's my job, then I log it. In the event that you don't do that, the effects would be disastrous. You would have chemical explosions, all kinds of things could possibly happen as a result of that. What am I saying? The devil is usually in the details. And you would be surprised that in these tragedies that we see, it is the details that we overlook that now are causing this disaster, that we're all heavy of heart and full of tears.
Yeah.
Boba Coco says, good morning, Team Spice. Listening from Nduh. Indeed, it's a sad day today, and we pray for divine visitation and healing to the families who have lost their loved ones. Rogers Nyange says, good morning from Birikani Voi. Indeed, amen to that prayer, Bob. Tula Omar says, good morning from Nairobi, Kenya. Depressing night yesterday. Indeed, it was. Leo says, we are a sick nation that has lost its humanity long ago. If a politician can take advantage of parents' grief to further their agenda, we're all Endarasha kids accounted for. That's another, like we brought it up this morning. There it is. Yeah. JB Mutua says, good morning and happy Friday from New Jersey. It's really sad. We keep losing lives, but we do nothing about it. What's a Kenyan life worth? May God intervene for us, Eric Tunui says. Paul Esana to all the families affected. Vintage Oaks says, good morning, Nduh, it's Dennis. All set, Spice people, set for the show. Jennifer Ateni says, good morning, my most favorite duo, Tumekumispia, Jennifer. Where have you been? Sasa when you come and you say hi, unasema I was here and here and here, but then I'm back. But we're happy to have you. My deepest condolences to the Utumishi Academy family, indeed. Rose Grace, tuned from Manera. Good morning, Nduh and Aseto. Good morning to you, Rose. Lovely to have you here. Wanda says, good morning, Nduh and Aseto from Toronto. No Joe today. The news is very heavy as we approach the year half point. I hope the second half of 2026 gives us some reprieve. Also, Aseto, I like your sweater.
Thank you.
Lovely print, indeed. Yikes. David Mangera says, good morning. Not a good morning. Kids dying in a dormitory accidents, Ebola threats. Sincere condolences to the families affected and quick recovery to the injured, indeed. Mtula says, we take disaster management as a joke in this country. Yes, we do. Christina says, good morning. Let's continue to pray for students and parents from Utumishi. In February, Chakol Girls Secondary School had caught fire, but we were lucky our children weren't in the dormitory. It was during lunchtime. We thank God for that.
Yeah.
Baba Coco says the late President Moi, may he still rest in peace, would make his presence felt in the scene of tragedy and condole with the people. Oh, okay. Samuel Bisimwa says, good morning, guys. Good morning to you. Edwin says most schools don't want parents to access where their children sleep, and I think this should change. Kimiak says Kenya One spoke for close to 30 minutes during prayer breakfast and never spent 1 minute to stand with Utumishi family. The advisors, nothing good will come out of this Kenya Kwanzaa regime. Yay! Tula says we love reports and task forces as a country where there's about to be another one.
Yeah.
Kuala Lumpur is where Samuel is tuning in this morning. Okay, great to have you. Mtuflani says, good morning. Condolences to the bereaved. Our government is a negligent parent and we have been on our own for a while now. Aseto meant fire escape? Yeah, probably fire escape, yeah. Caroline Yambura says, good morning. Nawapenda sana. Wishing you a blessed day ahead. And good morning to you too. Lovely to have you in the room. Alex Gioko says, good morning. Nduh and Dennis Kitale is tuned in. Karibu sana. Karanja says, TGIF, it's very sad to lose young lives because of ineptness by enforcement officers. I think all the metal grills installed on dormitory windows should be removed as a low-cost start to fire safety. Agreed, 100%.
True.
Because you can imagine if a window is an escape route and then that grill is there, what are you doing?
Yeah.
What are you doing? And they talk about it being security. Okay, I get it, but how about patrols instead of grills?
You know, you look at even the standard, even if you look at houses in other democracies, in the US, you'll never see even a house with grills.
There's a reason.
Because it's a safety hazard.
Yikes. Gosh, it's heavier and heavier, isn't it? Kimiak says the prayer breakfast meant for forgiveness and reconciliation was full of giving the regime a scorecard. Nduh, what if we actually prayed? I'm telling you, what if my people prayed? It's actually a verse in the Bible. What if we actually prayed? I'm telling you what we would actually receive. It's unbelievable. Isaac Ale says, only in Kenya can a school burn, a prayer breakfast trend, and an Ebola quarantine center quietly appear in the same week. Like the government is auditioning for the book of Revelation. My brother. That's what it looks like, isn't it? Tips Moga says, good morning, SpiceFM team. Young Jedi says, hello, Team Spice. I hope you're all doing well despite everything. Locked and ready to end the week. Indeed. Young Jedi also says, KPMDU says, Kenya is not America's high hazard dumping ground in bold letters. I agree. They did come out very firm yesterday from the Secretary General. Then immediately pivot to, but if you build it anyway, make sure Kenyan doctors get the jobs and hazard pay. I know. We start with that and look at what we end with. And it was just as bold, was it not?
Yeah.
Drift sessions, police with batons in a school engulfed by tragedy. To calm grieving parents, riddle me this. Are we sane?
No, you're not.
I don't know, man. Let them mourn their children. Let them go crazy if they need to. Because it's crazy, this situation. Uncle Gitsu says, I'm petty. The Americans can go to Israel for all I care. Kenyans first. Kenya is no dump site. Uncle says, today I'm petty. And it's okay. Be petty, Betty. It's fine. Chamgei, John Limo, greetings from Nakuru. Good morning to you. Mark Mwangi says, did you hear Dr. Muhisa about English teachers' job opportunities by foreign government were 95% awarded to one community? I don't know, man. Ivan Amos says, good morning and happy Friday from Embakasi. We pray that God intervenes in our situation. Indeed. Bwangi Juma says, hi, Spice. Imagine leaders were celebrating at a hotel, praying, by taxpayers' money, and the families at Gilgil were all over asking what happened to our girls. Prayer breakfast, an emergency, or public? Karen Jagona says, good morning, Spice family. Good morning to you. Nancy Abura says, good morning, Nduh and Aseto. It's so heartbreaking for the families that lost a parent who was rushing to see the state of their daughter. I'm telling you, I mean, God, how much can we take in that case? But, you know, the thing is that His grace is sufficient. Peace Thomas says, good morning, my people. Did you see the police parading all sorts of emergency vehicles and ambulances? What a mockery to us. Daughter of Africa, so sad that we've cheapened life. Children are a legacy, for heaven's sake.
True.
Indeed. Nernst Kirika says, I studied at Utumishi Boys Academy and I'm deeply surprised by the level of negligence as well as the apparent lack of training and awareness regarding what happened at our sister school. We're going to be talking about this thing because I think, you know what? We can and we should discuss the matters surrounding this. It's never too soon because we can talk about it and say we need to put it in your face. These things that people, the fire, the embers will burn, and they will die down. The heat will disappear. The places will be cleaned up, but the lives will not come back. And those details that we want to say we can overlook, we cannot.
We cannot. You know, there's a question that I was asked yesterday by one of the panelists that I had, and when you think of Utumishi girls or Utumishi schools, where are they located? Mm-hmm. They are surrounded by a military facility, by an AP line. Okay. Pretty much a majority of students who go to these schools are children of officers most of the time. Okay. Mm-hmm. So if these are institutions that are surrounded by security installations where response would be fast and quick to addressing that problem, if this is what we see, then what happens to that school that is in the far-flung area that is removed from all these installations?
God forbid.
Think about it. Then ask yourself, just how safe is my child where they are if this can happen in an institution that is next to all these facilities we're talking about?
I can't deal with that kind of thing. Because with the last comment that we're going to take is from Foundation with Nem, and she says, did you know that the last fire that highlighted for closure of schools not compliant to requirements are still operating with no changes? Yeah. Why? Corruption exchanged hands. Our children are not safe. Eric Awar says, good morning, guys. Good morning, Eric. And thank you for bringing in it. This is the conversation that we are going to have at 7 o'clock today. Task forces, committees, people, chairman, whatever. What have you actually done? What have you done? If there are schools that are not compliant with safety standards, shut it down. I don't care. True. Shut it down. And this is me already getting angry, and it's not even 7 o'clock. Okay, let's take a quick break so they can calm down a little bit. And we'll look at weather and traffic, and we'll come back and look into the headlines. Okay.
True.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. The weather with SpiceFM.
It's a cloudy morning in Nairobi, 14 degrees. We'll see a high of 24 through Friday. 15 and sunny into Nakuru with a high of 26, and mostly cloudy conditions of 14 in Njeri with a high of 24. It's 20 and sunny into Kisumu, and 17 and partly sunny in Kakamega. Mombasa is partly sunny at 24, and it is partly sunny at 25 in Malindi, 19 and sunny in Marsabit. We're looking into a cloudy Kampala at 20 and 23 and cloudy into Dar es Salaam. It's clear at 10 degrees in Johannesburg this morning. We'll see a high of 21 into the weekend. It's clear at 27 in Lagos this morning with a high of 31 and partly cloudy at 19 in London. 30 degrees in Beijing, and Thursday night in New York is clear at 18. Coming into Friday, we'll see a high of 24 and a low of 15.
Chilled Spice. Spice up your life. Traffic.
All right, Friday morning, and we know that a lot of outbound traffic is what we'll see, especially looking at the A104 outbound from Westlands going west. And I'd like to see some outbound traffic going north as well, coming in from the city. If you look at the Thika Superhighway, we have some traffic then through towards the Pangani underpass, and that's heavy, moving in some parts, but then it's going to be at a standstill. Most of the other parts of the city not moving just yet. There's a little bit of traffic on Mombasa Road as you're trying to head out into town. Jiro has some traffic coming in on Kangunda Road, and so that's one to watch for later. But for now, nothing much happening. Let's talk and try to keep things moving when they do. SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag The Situation Room.
Turn up the heat with endless entertainment on Star Times. Feel every moment of the action as the biggest leagues reach their thrilling finales. Recharge your monthly subscription to unlock a world of endless drama to enjoy Novella E, now available on your Nyota bouquet. Dive into blockbuster movies with the launch of TNT, your new home of big screen hits. And for the little ones, a world of non-stop fun on Cartoon Network, now on Star Times. News, sports, drama, movies, kids, and reality all in one place. All for you. To renew your subscription, dial *858# for self-service or get in touch with our call center on 0719 077 077 for customer care. Buy a Star Times decoder at any of our deal shops countrywide. Star Times. Enjoy digital life.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
It's 20 minutes to 7 o'clock. And on the front page of The Standard, Kenya's bold newspaper, heart-wrenching. Another dormitory fire, another national tragedy that Kenya has witnessed too many times before. From Bombolulu to Changule, Moi girls to Endarasha, school fires continue to expose a dangerous cycle of negligence, weak enforcement, and ignored safety warnings. Investigations are launched, reports written, and promises made. Yet little changes. See? Parents send children to school expecting safety, not death traps, with locked exits, overcrowded dormitories, and inadequate firefighting equipment. Authorities tasked with inspections and enforcement must answer for repeated failures. Kenya does not lack policies on school safety. It lacks accountability. Where? The horrific pictures of a mother crying, and in the background, their bodies that are being removed, of a child that you sent to school. And for me, here is that the severity of this situation could have been reduced significantly. Utumishi disaster is covered on page 2 and 3 of The Standard. Why you should brace for more school fires under state watch. Why? If you look at the history, because we know we know that there are different factors surrounding all of this. What we don't know right now is the cause of this fire. We don't know. We don't know whether it was arson. We don't know whether there was an electrical fault. We cannot say that 1 + 1 = 2 in this case until there is a direct answer. Was there a wiring issue? Did somebody actually set fire somewhere? What happened? Because we do not know that, we cannot then say that this is the reason for the fire in this school.
Sure.
Now, do we know that previously, like the famous Changuli High School, that there was somebody who set the fire? Yes. Have there been schools where they have set fire because they said we needed a break, we needed to get out? That has happened. In this case, can we draw that? We cannot, because we do not know yet. School unrest, however, is an issue. Did somebody say something? Did somebody want to go home? Were they feeling pressure from mocks? All of these things are drawn into the conversation. But there's one thing that we can say. Regardless of the cause of this fire, there are certain things we already know. Number one, there are grills on the windows, so there's not an easy escape. Do they have a fire policy? That again, we don't know. When is the last time, Dennis, a fantastic question, that a fire drill was done in your high schools in the country? When this school is surrounded by garrisons, 2 hours of a burning fire, the first responders would have been the folks who are surrounding the school anyway. That doors have locks on the outside of dorms. What do you think these children are going to do? Escape from the dorm and go where? On the outside. The locks are on the outside. Why? Already we're hearing, look, there are many things that are going to come up in our 7 o'clock conversation. So the question now that abounds is, if you cannot guarantee the safety of children who are in boarding school because of the things that we see happening too much, is it time for you to say then don't have the boarding schools? Or is that too extreme? Let's talk. The country grieves as 16 students die in dorm fire. And there's that gentleman that you spoke of. Akin to the days where in the Bible, the Old Testament, people would strip out of grief because, my God, my child is no more. Recurring dorm fires reveals years of safety failures. That's the story on page 4. Same script, ignored school safety manual. There is a manual. People sat down, put it together, that every school is supposed to comply to. Who is complying? We're not asking questions with emotion. No. We're asking questions based in fact. That somebody came up with a manual and said, if you're going to do 1, 2, 3, you must do 4, 5, 6. Why is it not happening? Now, as though we don't have enough to deal with there, Ruto-Ebola deal grows. The Trump-Ruto-Ebola deal grows. Opposition to that actually is what is growing. And like we said, Katiba Institute has taken a petition to the court under a certificate of urgency to say this thing has got to be stopped. Let's see. As the US seeks to set up a quarantine center in Kenya, it stressed that Ebola will not spill over into its territory. As in, we don't want it, you can have it. The sentiments have sparked uproar among Kenyans' leaders, legal and medical experts who asked why the facility should be established in the country. Now, it's just for purposes of clarity, by the way. These people are not coming from America.
No.
It is the people who are in countries that are affected. The Americans in those countries that are affected, they're saying, just contain it over there. Don't come over here. Capish?
Capish.
Ruto, the president, William Ruto, has said, I will accept the outcome of the 2027 election.
Can I respond? Do you have any other option? No, you don't. The laws, the constitution orders you to respect the results.
He said, and he looked, I don't know if it's a script, but he looked rather forlorn at some point, and he was saying, you know what, everybody's just talking about the election. You guys are just making noise all over the place. So relax, Bala. That it's going to be a free and fair election. It's going to be something else that he said, I can't remember. But he said, the thing that I remember, he said, it's going to be a free and fair election. If I win, so be it. If I don't, so be it too. So everybody should just be coming down. Escalating factional rivalries cast shadow over ODM's future. Let me tell you, folks, when there's a crack in the wall and you decide that you're not going to deal with the crack, what's going to happen? And the walls came tumbling down. That's all I'm saying. Lusaka, there's room to improve devolution. Really? In case you're wondering, Ken Lusaka is the governor of Bungoma County. And he said, you know, we've done a good job so far, so good, but we can actually do better. That's what I say, do better. Peter Kimani, you got to love his columns. He says it's a parable of Kenya as a pit latrine that cannot refuse USA dysentery. Yeah, exactly. That's what it looks like. Mushiri Karaja, also in the opinions this morning, says the president has himself to blame for appearing exhausted lately. Take a load off, man.
Yeah.
That's what he's saying.
Chill,
Relax.
The body needs rest, man.
To know.
Yeah.
Like we say in Nigeria, body not be firewood. You have to bend it every now and then.
Yeah. The president needs to just do that thing that you call
R&R.
Yeah. Or just devolve these issues. Let
delegate responsibility.
Ministers to do
their job.
You know.
Aviation industry players have also come into the conversation, and they're saying that the finance bill will hit the sector hard, and this is what they're warning the players in the aviation industry about. Everybody's talking about their profits for the year and how life is going to be good. La-dee-da. So that's what it looks like when you look into the business standard this morning. And we know that even as we get into the weekend, there's going to be quite a lot of sporting activity, as it usually is. I mean, that happens through the week anyway. I mean, and even as we cover some of these things, the Champions League is coming up, guys. Some people are hoping that they win that one too.
Saturday?
Yeah.
Do you know
30th, yeah.
30th,
yeah.
Let me ask a question. Do you know World Cup is next week?
17th of June. The World Cup, yep.
What happened?
What do you mean?
The zhuzh and everything about it.
It's 2026. Yeah. Canada, North America, and
Mexico.
Mexico.
Yeah. It's interesting to see how this World Cup will turn out.
It'll be fun.
Based off information that you get, especially from the sports pundits, is many people are just not buying tickets because of immigration rules that is there.
Yeah, no.
Also, it
is the greatest event on the planet. By the way, if anybody was wondering, asking what the greatest event the biggest event on the planet, it is actually the FIFA World Cup.
Yeah.
But now if you have a situation where your beloved America, you don't want to give people visa for this thing, how do you want people to go?
Yeah.
Now, you have to ask yourself, how are you going to fill the stands if you're not giving people visas to come? Ask yourself the question.
True.
This is where government and then those other institutions come to play. You want to look at the Nairobian?
Real quick, yeah?
All right.
So, Nairobi, let's look at the headlines here. So we have the untouchables, Nduh's dynasty of land, power and politics. So we talk about from the chiefs to governors. Their influence stretches from conservancies to parliament, from county tenders to clan politics. For decades, the Nduh family has stood at the center of Narok's power structure. But as the battle for the county's future intensifies, the dynasty is facing growing scrutiny over its grip on land, politics and influence. You thought dynasties is just what was there during the 2022 elections. There is dynasty politics in Narok County. So Ojenda's law firm to pay lawyer 1 million shillings in used condom and alcohol claim case. That is based off a defamation suit, which you'll find it on page 6. And blood on our hands, sad tale of Kenya's unthinkable child murder crisis. That is on page 14. This week we have been also making noise and just calling the duty bearers to give us reports on, and explanation on the missing children in the country and where exactly we are with that. Unfortunately, that you're from one issue surrounding children to another one of fire again surrounding children. Just where exactly our priorities when it comes to the children of the country, our children, pretty much. From fake noise to machines, 10 types of Arsenal funds after EPL win. One thing you must accept is Arsenal fans have been quiet for a very long time. Right now,
so now that you want to make noise to compensate for the last 22 years.
Let us just make noise. 22 years has been a long time. Yeah, but now there's a story here, or a picture where a cow is actually getting out of a Noah. Noah is a van. DCI detectives intercepted a vehicle carrying 3 suspected stolen cattle in Elgon View, Eldoret. Oh my God, that's my neck of the woods where I was raised.
Apple, you guys are doing some magic.
Wezi Wangombe walipatikana huko. And we have on page 3, it's about sisterhood, and the ladies are looking mighty beautiful in their dresses, and the women dazzled in elegant ensembles at the What Women Want Summit held in Nairobi. So yes, women looking nice. On page 4 and 5 is that story of the Nduh family and the dynasty control that they do have, dynastic control that they do have. Anita Kendi, Murungi's death and the moments that stilled Meru noisy politics. So Kiraitu Murungi's daughter was pursuing medicine at the University of Central Lancashire in Preston, England. So the family lost their daughter. And we saw the father pretty much just going through a difficult time of burying your own child. So yeah, there's that as well on page 7. On page 8, Kasarani man denies the act of sexual cruelty and death threats. The woman said her lover threatened to kill her and throw her body in trench in the neighborhood. In the middle of the night, he allegedly grabbed a kitchen knife and threatened to kill her. This is where Kama Haiwak walk out. It is never ever difficult to say this is not working out, and respectfully I choose to stay away. Just walk away. Just walk away. Now, ex-MP's son murder probe deepens amid staff mystery. So Hannington Were is the son of former Matungu MP David Were, who was attacked and killed by unknown assailants on Sunday. So based off earlier reports was that this man was hit by a blunt object, but the autopsy result indicate that he was actually stabbed, I think, enough times from the back that pierced his lungs and he died. So you look at initial reports vis-a-vis the forensic report and they do not match. So who exactly wanted this man dead? Those are the stories that we have on the Nairobi, and we could look at one story on the Standard.
Okay, so I'm going to do this from the Indarasha stories here, because there are quite a number of them. And this one on page 2 caught my attention because why should we brace? Well, this is what the story says. Some reports date back to 1994 with recommendations on school unrest and arson. However, successive administrations have allowed the proposals collect dust on shelves. Failure to implement multiple government reports on school fires and unrest is to blame for more lives being lost in schools. And more lives could be lost if top ministry officials and the country's leadership continue playing hide and seek games. The government is yet to fully implement recommendations of its own reports, some put forward by special investigations teams on school unrests. The reports date back to 1994, including the government-appointed Kirima Task Force, which studied student strikes and arson in schools. In 2001, the government appointed another team the Task Force on Student Discipline and Unrest in Secondary Schools, whose verdict mirrored findings of the Kirima team. And in 2016, the government appointed the Claire Omolo Task Force, which restated the recommendations of the last two teams in detail. Are you understanding?
Yeah.
Another task force came in, recommended the previous one. The previous one had recommended the one before that.
So basically,
2016 came, recommended the last two.
So basically, the very first task force gave us the solution that would be implemented throughout these other task forces.
Yeah.
Okay.
Have we implemented it? No. So, many years later, a spot check across schools reveals sheer negligence of the set regulations as laid standards of student safety are grossly breached. Other reports are the Naomi Mungai report of 2001 and the David Coet report of 2008. An analysis of these education reports on student unrest reveals several recommendations have been fronted to contain the growing menace. The most recent findings are contained in the 2016 Task Force report chaired by Claire Omolo, which laid bare causes of school fires, especially during the second term, which is where we are now. In the Omolo report, the team recommended that all boarding schools must meet prescribed standards as set by the ministry before they are registered and students admitted. Before. What borders impunity is that the recommendations of another government document titled Safety Standards Manuals for Schools, released in 2008, also remains largely on paper. In all the reports, streamlining boarding schools and establishing functional guidance and counseling departments in schools were key. Increased involvement of student leaders in decision-making, reducing tests ahead of national examinations, and training members of school boards on education management was also highlighted. Other proposals made in the reports were suggested review of the curriculum to introduce lower secondary and reducing the number of boarding schools. Years on, school unrest debate remains a topic discussed in hushed tones in staff rooms and even in ministry offices. School heads are also on the spot for failing to implement directives issued by the Teacher Service Commission to enhance student safety and improve vigilance. The Omolo report unearthed major administrative flaws in schools and existence of backward criminal practices and punishable oversights that sparked off student unrest in schools. So what does that last line tell you? That it is not just the students who said kuna weevils kwa maharagwe or tuna wanaweka kerosene kwa chakula. No. It's beyond tunapigwa sana. What have you been told here? That sometimes teachers will collude and say, you guys, amjachoka, amtaki kwenda nyumbani, start something. What have we said here? Punishable oversights that spark off students' unrest in school, existence of backward criminal practices, and punishable oversights that spark off students' unrest in schools. When you have such a heavy indictment that is to be sorted out by a commission, and then the commission does its work, it gives you a report, why is it collecting dust on a shelf somewhere? To me, it is crazy that in 2026, 10 years after this Omolo report, the things that they said in that report are not to be implemented. Mind you, this was an amalgamation of the previous reports that were done. Davy Koech, 2008. Kirima 2 in 2004, before Kirima 1. So, it bust my brain.
Remember, the report that dates back to 1994 goes back to the first incident that happened in 1991. So from 1994 to 2026, we've not done anything to change the story. Where is the ministry? We asked about quality checks. We have quality checks on paper. Do you think even these principals know?
What are you talking about? Did you not hear what this thing said? Before students are admitted, before those schools are even registered, there is a standard of quality that they must have met. Who is the person that assured that this quality of standard had been met? See, we're talking about this thing at 7. Gear up, guys. Good morning, 7 a.m.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Good morning. This is the news. I'm Sheila Timbor. DCI officers investigating the fire tragedy at Tutumishi Girls Academy in Gilgil say preliminary findings point to a possible arson attack. Detectives say they have interviewed more than 20 students, the student leader, school management and security officers as investigations continue. Police are also examining CCTV footage and gathering evidence to determine the exact cause of the fire. Witnesses say the blaze started at the main entrance of the dormitory before spreading rapidly.
Wakati nilipoingia, tuliingia na tukaanza kusaidia wanafunzi ambao walikuwa ndani, na tukawasaidia wale ambao walikuwa wanachomeka ndani, tukatafuta ngazi, na tulipokuwa tukiwasaidia, kuna mlango ambayo ilikuwa imefungwa. Tulijaribu kutafuta vile ambavyo tunaweza fungua hiyo mlango na ili mlango iweze kufunguka. Ikashindikana. Mapolisi wakatuambia tujaribu vile tutatafuta machuma ili tuweze kufungua huo mlango.
Investigators are also seeking answers over claims that the student leader was absent from school and unreachable by phone at the time of the incident. The tragedy has left grieving parents demanding answers as the country continues to mourn. The KMPDU has given the government a 48-hour ultimatum to disclose details of talks with the U.S. over a proposed Ebola quarantine and treatment facility at Laikipia Air Base. KMPDU Secretary General Dr. Nduh Atela accused the government of secrecy and warned of nationwide industrial action if the plans proceed without public disclosure and healthcare reforms. The union questioned why Kenya was allegedly selected to host Americans exposed to Ebola, saying the country's public health system is already overstretched.
Quarantine is being established within the territory of the country. It means the government is actually now deliberately bringing the disease from DRC, from Uganda to the country. It is a selfish act by the government, and it's quite hypocritical when they're taking up a direction. So we tell the government that the time comes when they have to stand up and be patriotic.
Residents near the proposed Laikipia Air Base facility have also expressed concern.
Kenya mzima ni Laikipia tu mumeonelea mulete hiyo quarantine hapa. Munataka sisi wote tukufe ili mtuzike pale kaburi ile iko pale cemetery.
We can't just have the Ministry of Health, just running things haphazardly. There's a reason why we have Parliament, so that some of these key decisions are run through that house.
The development follows reports by the New York Times that the Donald Trump administration plans to send exposed Americans to Kenya for monitoring and treatment. Health CS Aden Duale has confirmed Kenya is in discussions with the U.S. and other global partners on Ebola preparedness. Meanwhile, Katiba Institute has moved to court seeking to block the establishment of any Ebola quarantine or treatment facility linked to a foreign government in Kenya. And President William Ruto has told Kenyans to stop panicking about the 2027 general election, saying the outcome rests with God and not political scheming. Speaking during the national prayer breakfast themed forgiveness and reconciliation, President Ruto assured Kenyans that the election will be free, fair and peaceful.
And we are going to have elections, and they will be peaceful, and there will be no violence, and they will be free and fair. So relax. People are in a panic. I don't know. Ile Mungu ameamua ndio itafanyika. Kama Mungu ameamua Ruto will get a second term, he will. Kama Mungu ameamua vingine, that's what will happen. And we will move on as a country. Yes. So relax. There's no problem.
Other leaders who addressed the gathering called for forgiveness and restraint amid rising political tensions.
We just compete as brothers and sisters. We are not enemies. Don't make political competition enmity.
The Bible tells us that after we exercise our faith and pray, let us go and do what God wants us to do.
Because when we finish competing, we have a country to look after. And in that, I salute our former Prime Minister, the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, who at every time at the end of the contest appreciated that Kenya was greater than the contestants.
To forgive is an obligation.
And that's the news. I'm Sheila Tembur.
SpiceFM. Nakuru.
If we just gloss over issues and hope that time heals, then we might find that in generations to come, we might be back at the same situation. And the whole thing is born of stolen elections.
Spice.
When it comes to the decisions you make, you must be independent. There's no way you can allow one institution to dictate to you how you're going to conduct your operations, how you're going to decide cases. It's a no.
When you weaken the institution to the point where they cannot take action, then you realize that politicians have to come up and now start dealing with the issues.
That conversation has to die. Our politicians do not like the hard stuff. We must insist on the path of doing things right, whether popular or unpopular.
Money changes hands. That is a fact. If you have political goodwill at the highest top, like in Rwanda, then corruption will be an issue of the past. If you don't have political goodwill at the top, we will pass laws, we will amend laws, we will continue passing laws and re-amending laws, and nothing will happen.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
Every time he kept on saying he wants a vibrant opposition.
How does it make sense that public money has been used already and then they dare to sell it back to you? Why they're not giving them for free?
That's how broken we are. That's how broken we are.
They're being sent home now for fees. They're going to fail to prepare. We are compromising the futures of these children.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
Parliament has got powers. Let me break it down. The National Assembly can initiate an impeachment of the president.
This same National Assembly.
Yes. That's our constitution.
This is just a continuation of the previous administration, which Ruto was part of. President Uhuru himself openly said that we're losing 2 billion daily. Daily. I mean, come on. Are you saying that we don't have a central bank?
If we look at Kenya, both public-private sector, that figure is ranging between 30 to 40%, right?
I think it's clear that the government of Kenya is living beyond its means.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
In this country, 6 families and 8,000 Kenyans control 90% of the GDP. We are not a country. We are a plantation. We work for Ruto.
When you're telling the judges court orders are papers or they will not obey court orders, they're sitting and you're seeking orders from them. So how are they supposed to interpret it? Isn't it an oxymoron?
When you see a judiciary that seems to be under some control somewhere, you start questioning. We have very powerful governors, but they don't use their offices to serve the people.
If you are not shameful to do what you are doing, why should we protect you?
I'm human. Everybody's human. So when you're told, kuja tuongee, I mean, you'd be a fool to say, stagi kuongea today. Conversations have to be had, you know?
People in leadership should only go into leadership if they are ready and willing to change the lot of the people.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
It's 9 minutes after 7 o'clock and into the second hour of our conversation this morning in the Situation Room. It's Friday, the 29th of May, 2026, and we woke up to tragedy again yesterday morning, and we have to ask ourselves a question today. And beyond a question, we need to make certain things clear, that we should not have to wake up to deaths of 16 children and another disaster. We shouldn't have to do that. But we're going to take it from a different angle this hour, even as we talk about that. So, before we get into it, I just want to bring you up to speed. We'll have a poll. It's going to be running in a minute for you to then be able to answer some of these questions. It's time for us to have some serious conversations, but beyond conversations, to actually get some stuff done as it concerns this issue. It is a problem, and as we did in one of the stories that we shared with you from Standard, that it has been a problem for years. There have been task force upon task force, and for some reason, the implementation of these things has never happened. But before we get into it, Dennis,
yes,
you toil, you grind, don't you? Every day you're coming, you're doing things. That voice of yours now, you go outside sometimes, you get a gig here and there, you're grinding, you're putting the money aside.
Yes.
Do you know what?
Yep.
Unless it's the kind of money, the kind of wealth that you can now pass down to Akina Hamza, you know.
Yeah. It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense.
But you can do something about it.
Yes, you can. Real wealth is the one that people after you will then be able to say, something was left for us. So what makes sense is the little that you're going to be able to put aside from now that will then be able to be left in the event that you are not there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Not being there is not if.
It is when. It is not about if, it's about when. So have you asked yourself the question that all this stuff that you're grinding for, what exactly happens to it in the event that you're not there?
True.
Probably haven't asked ourselves that question. But the Britam Whole Life Plan is answering that question when you actually ask it. The plan provides lifetime coverage once you complete your chosen payment period of 10, 15 or 20 years. Your beneficiaries, imagine. So you can get into the plan for 10 years. You're grinding, you're putting something aside. You can get into it for 15 years, again, doing the same thing. 20 years, you're doing the same thing. People start to get some money after that.
Because, you see, what that means is, Nduh, if I'm 25, I do that within 10 years. That means if God gives me 90, from that time when I'm, say, 35 till when I'm 90, that thing is accruing interest. Every day until my time to be with the Lord comes.
Exactly.
Yes.
That's the real wealth that we're talking about. That you're making money even when your eyes are closed. Your beneficiaries receive an immediate tax-free cash payout, imagine, and your coverage increases by 3% every year. Now you can imagine that money that you thought was a lot at that time. We're going to increase it by 3% every year to take care of inflation. It's like Father Christmas and Mother Christmas. Is there Mother Christmas? Wrapped all in one.
Yeah.
Because true wealth is not just what you build, it's the legacy that you actually leave behind, Aseto. So what we need you today to do is to estimate the word life to 21778. SMS it and your town where you are. Eldoret, life 21778. Or you can call or WhatsApp on 0705 100 100. Somebody's going to be able to walk you through what you need to do. Because, folks, it's not about when. It's not about if. It's about when. It's not if it is going to happen.
Yeah.
The question is, when is it actually going to happen? We'll give you more information about this as we get along. Okay, fires in schools. Remember that 33 young men and women, young girls and boys, coming from the eastern part of the country in 12 schools spanning Taita to Veta, were brought before a court of law that they were then charged with arson. That this had started around about the end of first term towards the second term, as has been established by the Claire Omolo task force that took place in 2016. Okoh. Now, it had been established that, second term was tough. Let's take some facts into consideration. It's the longest term in the school year. It's about 15 weeks. Kids are in school for a long time before they come home for 3 days and then they go back. But this term is for everybody. So now for those who are in boarding school, they're grinding for a long time. So it's the longest term. For your Form 4s, this is when now you're really getting into it and you're trying to remember everything that you studied from Form 1, 2, 3. Because there's this big exam that's coming that essentially is going to chart your the course of your future that comes about in November. So it's tough. And I had a conversation with a Form 4 student a couple of weeks ago, and she just looked like, this is the beginning of term 2, she looked like she was going to fall apart at some point, and she was telling me, this is an A student, but she said it is overwhelmingly difficult. So they feel the pressure. this is not just me saying this. These things came up in the Claire Omolo report, okay? And they said that the pressure that they feel around second term is great, and that there's a lot of work that needs to be done. For those who've not finished syllabus, this is
That's the time.
They're packing it in because they need to be done. Term 3, there's nothing you're learning.
Nope.
Everything is fully revisional.
True.
All right? So they need to make sure that you finish your syllabus. If you, for some reason, you do not finish it by term 1, this is where you're packing it all in. This is also the time that they feel as though they can start to make complaints about things that have been happening, whether it's their wherewithal when it comes to food, the quality and quantity of it, that they see that things start to wax and wane around term 2.
Term 2, yeah.
And then they say, come on, guys, there's a little bit more weevil in my beans this term than there was around this time last year. You know what I'm saying?
I'm eating a lot of paraffin, man. Kerosene.
Exactly.
We need to stop it.
So the complaints come. Again, this is not Nduh saying. This is, if you actually, that Claire Omolo report is available, you can actually go and look at some of the things that they say that are genuine concerns. And it's not just from one school. It is that they've taken what is that thing that you do when you're taking a sample? That's the word.
A sample.
They're taking samples from different...
Yeah, the tip sample, the sample size of all the schools.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
And they've been able to establish that these are actually the reasons. So there are different things that come up. Another thing is that corporal punishment is banned in Kenya.
True.
However, don't be deceived that it doesn't still take place. This is another thing that came up in this report, that children are mishandled in school. And I know that there are some adults today who are functioning victims of PTSD, who remember the things that were done to them even when corporal punishment had been banned.
True.
Okay? Children are still being beaten. We are still dealing with the hangovers of children will be seen and not heard. And this attitude is even taken to school, whereby even if you had an opinion, God forbid, nobody wants to hear your opinion. You do as I say and not as I do.
Yeah.
So you can't have an opinion. God forbid that you should even then voice that opinion.
True.
We want to ignore it, but it is true. The human beings who live in your houses when they're on holiday are the same human beings who go to these boarding schools.
Yeah.
They don't change. They don't eat weevils in their food when they are in their parents' house. I don't imagine.
If there is a parent who feeds their children weevils, tell us.
Maybe you can tell us, okay? When a child is sick and you present yourself to the teacher and they say, "Where are you, Dennis? You're just pretending. Able, go back to class." When a child is sick in their parents' home and it has been established, mind you, I do actually accept that some children will feign illness in order to avoid going to class, sitting an exam. They will feign illness. But in the time when a child is unwell, that you are denied medical care is a reality. Again, another factor that made it into the Omolo report. We also know that these criminal activities that they're talking about that push children to the brink are a lot of times, mind the words that I use, not all the times instigated by staff and or teachers of schools who go nudge students and they say, "Excuse me, are we doing something today? This time, you guys are kind of quiet. Nothing is happening.
You guys are not tired."
This, again, is in this report. I beg you. One of the things that we don't do is we don't read.
Yeah.
And that is one of the problems. Look at that report. This is what they said in this report as per the reasons why they see this unrest. Now, unrest combined with frustration is equals to a lot of the incidences that we see that we are still reporting about to date. Why do I bring this up? In as much as we do not know the reason or the cause of the fire at Utumishi yesterday morning, we do know that in this time period that many cases have been documented and things have been recommended for action that were not done. I just want to repeat in case anybody missed out, okay?
Yeah.
1994, Kirima Task Force 1 sat. and they studied student strikes and arson in schools. In 2001, the government appointed another team, the Task Force on Student Discipline and Unrest in Secondary School. It even had a snazzy title. Yeah. The verdict mirrored the findings of the Kirima team.
Yes.
This is 7 years later. Are you understanding? 7 years after the fact, they established that whatever they found out in 1994 is the same thing that they found in 1991. Are we together?
Yes.
All right. They finished that one. We put it on the shelf and it collected the proverbial dust. Many years later, before that, in 2016, the government appointed Claire Omolo to head this task force that restated the recommendations of the last two teams in detail. Please, whatever was in the Claire Omolo report of 2016 in detail is what was in the report of 2001 and the Kirima report of 1994.
Yes.
There were certain recommendations that were made. So let's leave the social issues aside. Those ones for our food is bad, our teachers are terrible, they are beating us, they are feeding us little animals. Put that one aside. Let's look at the recommendations that were made, whereby the news bite from what Sheila Tembur told us just a few minutes ago talked about people who are trying to send ladders up to the windows. But what was the reason why the kids could not get out? There are grills on the doors, on the windows. Can't get out. Okay. So you can't get out using the ladder that has been sent. And who was telling them to go and look for something else? Who?
Police.
Police.
Please find for a metal bar so that you can break the door.
The door, they cannot get to the door because what? It is locked from where?
Outside.
Outside. This is where children are sleeping. Then you lock the door from outside. So you have to ask yourself, what exactly was going on here? I'm telling you about reports that followed 7 years later, and people are saying, guys, this is actually what we need to do. There was even a report that said, until you meet these standards, we are not even going to allow you to register as a school, talk less of allowing you to admit students in the school. Who followed who?
You see, Nduh, it's unfortunate that in 1994, if implementation went into place, we would not be having this discussion today. I will also remind you of an incident where former Education Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i went to a school during his rounds, went to a dormitory and asked the head teacher at the time, "Excuse me, sir, this is the place where these children are sleeping. Would you yourself sleep in
here.
such conditions?" The gentleman said no. And I remember Matiang'i told the gentleman, "I want you to fix this mess, not tomorrow, but immediately, so that we can give these children the best they deserve." We're here talking about reports that have always been on these shelves. What I want to pretty much follow through is the ministry is the custodian of this report. What is their mantra, or what is the process of implementing this report? What has been done, say, from Kirima 1, right? From Kirima 1. What did they do with that report before we got to 2016, before we got all the way to Claire Omolo? Was there any implementation of all these reports?
No.
So then here we are surprised why, when you talk about the quality assurance, is not there, is because all these things people know they ought to be done. But we might as well come, set up a building and say, this has been funded by CDF money, and that's all we want to see. We want to see buildings. The nitty-gritties when it comes to safety is never a subject of conversation.
You know what? It is unfortunate that when you're having a conversation like this, that you will then actually look and say, if this had been done, then perhaps this would not have happened. Now, if this was arson, which we're yet to establish, we have to be very careful here. We're yet to establish, because investigative authorities have not told us the cause of this. They are yet to. Even from that report, we hear that some of the details that are coming through could point to arson. Until that is established, we cannot. But there are certain things within that space that you have to look at and say, if the recommendation of these at least four reports since 1994 had been established, there were some things that we would have then been able to save, and that's a very painful thing. That if there were no grills on those windows, for example, it is very possible that that ladder that had been put up to the wall, some of those girls would have then been able to escape. That is the truth. If some of those recommendations had been put in place, then you would have known that it is very possible that in a room which is not supposed to have more than 20 beds, just as an example, then we would have been sure that there would have been more space. And that's the thing, that fire will cramp up where there is less space for things to move. It's crowded, it's packed. What kind of materials are you using? What kind of beds are you putting inside there? What is the material for those beds? What's the material on those beddings? Should there be a standard that should be followed so that in the event that something happens, the damage and the severity is reduced? That's what we are talking about. So if these reports had actually been implemented, and we're not even talking about that one for school unrest, we're not talking about this one for curriculum, we've not even reached there yet. We're not talking about teacher behavior, we're not talking about school implementation, we are talking about safety standards for schools that have boarding facilities.
My question as well, Nduh, is in these institutions that we are in, do we have fire extinguishers?
Oh my God.
Because at any given point in any jurisdiction, the first responders would be trained individuals within that space who know how to use all these fire extinguishers to get rid of fire. But here we have children, number one, who they're living in buildings that don't meet standard. Fire extinguishers is a mirage. We do not have even fire exit points in these institutions. And even the doors where would be places where these children would use are locked. The doors that would enable them to even jump outside have grills. Yet we're here saying we're offering quality. What exactly is quality when the way these children live does not meet the standard?
It doesn't meet the standard.
Where is the quality in all this? Because quality is not in what you make them understand. Everything in that space fits in that quality.
And you know what? I mean, I'm going to hear that, now you're just upset because there's another fire. Then I say, yes.
I'm upset.
I'm upset because there's another fire. I'm upset because even when the Russia burnt down, there was another fire and it went to court and people say, okay, well, it's a court case. Let's hear. I was upset then. If I want to say Nduh, been shouting and talking about what needs to happen in spaces where you put our very precious children day in, day out for years. When precious talent came down in 2021, and they told us that by that year, it fell, I can't forget, it came down in September when children died. And there's a makeshift building where you want to pretend that children who are running all over the place, you're using chicken wire to hold it together. What did they tell us then? Under President Uhuru Kenyatta's regime, that I won't forget, September is when that school fell. October 31st, there was supposed to be a report about the safety standards in schools. Till tomorrow. Till tomorrow.
Nothing.
That report has not been made public. A very public show of destruction happened when the country's children died. Then you want to take that report and you want to hide it under a bushel? You must be on drugs. And the very potent kind. Because I will be upset. And the thing is that we don't get upset enough that children die and then we say, it's just a tragedy. We'll do better. No. Yes, I'm a journalist. I share information. I can also then be in a space whereby we lead conversation in a certain direction where we're saying for the people, you must do better.
True.
How do you explain to me that functioning human beings head task forces and you see, Dennis, you commission someone. You commission someone and you say, you know what? There's a problem here. So what you need to do is you need to go around schools and you need to either tell them that if you've not met 1, 2, 3 standard, or not even that we're even going very far, you need to do your study and tell us the reason why we are seeing these things happening. Changuli was terrible. The people who buried their sons in Changuli today, they've not forgotten. Those who had to bury stumps because their children were charred beyond recognition, they've not forgotten. Horrible, horrible things like that have happened, and they still happen. People thought that Russia was the last, and here we are again with this kind of thing. So they told you to go and find out what happens around here. You commission them to do it. They come and they tell you, we are the experts. You put us here because we're the experts. They come and tell you, now, if you don't want this kind of thing, hey God, if you don't want this kind of thing to happen again, this is what you must do. You say, thank you very much, Mr. Dennis. You take the thing and you put it under the table. Then it happens again. Then you come and say, you know what? Let's get someone else to come and form a commission, task force, whatever the hell they call it. Then they come and tell you, you see that thing those guys told you 7 years ago to do? Yeah. You need to actually do it. Because if you do it, we will solve this problem and we will not have such a bad case again. Tawa. Then you say, thank you very much, Mr. Dennis. I'm very grateful. We even have ceremony. We even serve tea and mandazi on the day you're presenting the report. Then everybody goes home. Then, 15 years later, no, even between that, David Koech did one for 2008. David Koech sat and they did one, 2008.
I think there are actually two before 2016,
They told you, now, in fact, the words that are being used to the detail, the report that this group came up with mirrors the one that you had before. They were prescriptive. They told you what you needed to do. Did you? No. You were even you as a ministry even came out later and you said, you know what we're going to do now? Even before we register your school, even before we allow you to admit students, we want to ensure that safety standards, all of these things are met. We will not even give you registration license. We won't. I don't know if it rained and poured and we woke up the next day and then epiphany happened. But those things also didn't take place. Njeri is here telling us how people were in rooms like sausages. In fact, sausages have more space than some of the boarding schools that we see in their dormitories. People have to eat in shifts because the thing is so damn packed. It's true.
Yeah, true.
These are the things that we're talking about.
Yeah.
So in the event that there's fire, there are schools today that have... Look, there are schools today... Because this thing, I'm passionate about it, man. There are schools today where the children are sleeping in the sanatorium because there is no space. God forbid if something happens in that sanatorium. What are you going to tell them? Look, Dennis, please talk because I'm just...
Now, I hear you. And it's because we have children in these schools. We have gone through these schools. I tell a story of how one day a school somewhere woke up to a report of a reported arson attack that was to happen. And the 20 liters of diesel that had been bought had been stored on a ceiling. On a ceiling. You know what happened? All the ceiling, roofs, and whatever in that school were brought down.
Yes, no, that's the action to go. Yeah.
Because we can't allow this to happen. So all the ceilings were brought down. In the event where it was raining, just know you will do your homework. There is no teaching that will happen because of the noise. But that is a step that was taken. But here we talk about government commissioned reports that the government has in store. Now, what exactly does this report do? Do we have ministries that have come up with implementation mechanisms of the same? No. We talk about district officers, extension officers, who then report back to the ministry or TSC. When they go to these schools, are they just there to look at, okay, fine, how many textbooks do you have?
Do you think they even do that? When they go for the meeting, they see the guy in the front and say, Nyaje, mnaendeleaje, tuko salama, mzuri sana, sawa, tuone next year.
Let's assume the quality is they're looking for is on the textbook. But nobody ever bothers to go look at this dormitory based off the architectural plans is supposed to house how many students, and how many students do we have? If we have more students than the capacity that dormitory can hold, then that is a school that does not meet the code set out by the ministry. But this is the story that happens across the country, because remember, Nduh, here we're talking about dormitories. But remember, the same government today tells us that you will go to a class that is supposed to have 45 students, but we have 60 plus, and it's the government that is confirming that to us. Now imagine if an accident, a fire was to break out in that class with students who are more than the capacity that is required.
God forbid.
We look at these things, we gloss over them, and we move. But here's the thing, Nduh. Adult population, the government of this country needs to look at children in schools as people. These are not statistics for you to say we have managed to have 100% transition to secondary schools. These are people with lives, and they equally have a say in this entire project that we call education. Because like you've said, the arson incidents that we see in schools is because you go have your githeri, there are weevils, and the child would rightfully say, I don't eat weevils. Children are there. I don't eat weevils. Children are there to be seen, not to be heard. But what are we doing again with ensuring that we meet code? Do we know of the code as the principals? Or do we just hire people to say, oh, this year we've hired 100,000 teachers who are in these institutions? Do teachers themselves even understand the code that we're talking about today? Do they know of these reports that do exist today? Because at some point in a school, Nduh, you'd find these teachers become the duty master who's in charge of a school at any given point.
Yes.
And if you become a duty master at any given point, then you should be conversant with all the reports and all the details and all the code that are supposed to be met in that school. If you are a duty master and can't even operate a fire extinguisher, then you are a duty master for who exactly and for what?
One of the things that comes clear is that there are certain processes that were followed at a time gone by. That there are people who, I mean, even in the comments that we're hearing or we're seeing this morning, they're talking about that we used to have drills. We knew what was supposed to be done.
Yeah.
So my question happens is that, has there been a decaying over time of what's supposed to be done, or the understanding that certain processes should actually be played out? Remember what I told you earlier about the guy in Hungary who goes into a factory and every day his job is to
flip a switch.
4 hours later, flip a switch. At the end of the day, fill a report. That in the absence of that duty, that there is something more terrible that would happen in this mundane act of flipping a switch every day. That without him doing his job, that something else would go wrong. Now, I'm going to relate that directly to the quality assessors that should actually be going around, who will go to said school and say, well, this is my day, I have my flip chart, I would need to see your dorms. And you make sure that everything is in place. I would need to see your kitchen. I would need to see your whatever, your dining hall, whatever.
Quality of water.
Exactly. All of those things taken into consideration, because it is a set standard. Now, do we have it? Is it that people don't want to do their job? Is it that people are afraid to topple the apple cart? Is it that nobody wants to ruffle any feathers? So what they come and say, institution such as this you should not have grills on your windows. You should not have 60 girls crammed into a room that should be just for 20.
Yeah.
You should not have no, I've even forgotten my chemistry. The one that conducts and retains heat, that kind of material, you should not have. Shouldn't have in schools. Because guess what? That is what is in the code of standard for schools in this country. That's what's in the code. So why have a code? Why have the people sit down, do the painstaking work of saying this is the standard that we need to keep? If you are going to take people's children and keep them in school in order for them to learn, this is the standard that must be kept. Why have people do all that if you're not going to follow it? Now, they say, okay, you are human beings, so the chances of you following it every day then are slim to none. So we will send you people who will come and check to make sure that you actually do it. Now, this is my problem. These people who are supposed to actually be going regularly to check and then come back with reports and say, actually, you know what, in my region, schools 1 to 150, They're okay. They're doing fine. I found 30 schools that are beyond code. Shut it down. Why do we have a problem with being radical in the details, but then now when things happen that are so tragic, then we want to cry? That's why this story, why you should brace for more school fires under the state's watch, makes sense. Because 1 + 1, my brother, is not 7. It is 2. In the last 16 years, you didn't do what you hired experts to tell you to do.
Which they did.
And they did it. And in those last 16 years, we have had over 200 students die in fire. I'm not talking about other things, in school fires. Now, do you understand when I say 1 + 1 = 2? So, we need to be radical in the details, because that is where the devil lies. Shut it down. Standards. You have initiated them. Keep them. If you cannot have a secondary school or whatever school, I hear people are even sending their children to boarding school at the age of 9. Okay. If you must, there are certain standards you must keep. If you cannot, shut it down. Children dying in the manner in which they died yesterday or 2 years ago or 4 years ago should not be the story we should be telling.
And I think as we have this discussion as well, we must start having conversations on normalizing parents being part and parcel of visiting facilities that are in school.
Oh, don't even get me started on that one.
I want to be a parent where I will go to a school, go to a dormitory and see the bed where my child is sleeping. I want to see the exit and entry points of that dormitory.
I'm sorry, on that note, there are many dorms that have an entry, no exit. That's just a point for you to remember.
I want to look at the size of the windows in that dormitory. I want to look at the plans of that dormitory, the capacity that that dormitory should have vis-a-vis the actual number of students and children in that dormitory. And I think that information as well, Nduh, is something that should be standard and printed outside that dormitory so that students themselves have that information and can raise a concern whenever that is flouted. You know why? Because for a very long time we've looked at students as children who do not have an opinion. But if we normalize it, that a student is able to call out nonsense in schools and that we are able to deal with that, then we are at a position to address these things way on time. We need to be told when children are going to school, it is good to tell us that we need to buy a bus, but we equally need to be told during this term, before midterm, there will be a fire drill, and we invite PTAs, we invite parents to be part and parcel of that program. We equally need to be told as parents that during this period, we will have investigators or guys who will come and look at our fire hydrants and see if they are up to date, because those things do expire.
Exactly.
You know, we need as well to be told in this school, we have OSHA, people who've been trained. Yolanda is one of them, right?
Yes.
We have students who've been trained, especially the prefects, who know how to use fire hydrants, who know where the fire assembly point is. I'm going to ask you, in your school, do you know where fire assembly is? Where your child runs to in case there's fire?
Because it is me now, I know where. In fact, in the building I see.
Yeah.
Now there are 2 schools in question here, and I have to think. I've seen one in the administration block, but because I've never been allowed to go to the dorms, I don't know if one exists. I could ask them. So
here's the question: do these children even know where to run to whenever there's fire?
Do they know how to engage a fire extinguisher?
No, they don't.
I should ask them today. Do you know how to engage a fire extinguisher?
You should ask.
When it happens. Do you know how to engage one? Has somebody taught you? Do you know what to do? Do you know who your fire marshal is, for example?
Exactly. Because we are here looking at, we want these kids to have an A, but you are not making everything that is conducive for them to have that A. A bright student, an A student, has died in a fire that could have been avoided. So what quality of education are you giving when you can't assure this child is able to start and end and get that A?
Why is it difficult? Dennis, for us to be radical, because it seems that that's the only language that is understood.
Yeah.
Why is it difficult to be radical? Why is it difficult to say that this is the set standard? These are the agents that we have employed to ensure that that standard is upheld. Why is it difficult? Is it because of money? Because I go to your school and then you tell me, I beg, just take this money, you relax, everything is okay. So you sell the soul of children and a system for 30 pieces of silver. Why is it difficult for you to say, you know what? What will be on my head in the event of a tragedy is life.
Yep.
Not what I'll buy with this money that you're giving to me. So if you don't meet the standard, I have to report it.
I have to close you down.
And beyond that, when you take it to the next person, why is it so difficult for them to say, you know what? We have set standards. You have not met them. You cannot operate. Because tell me one. Tell me what. I know that there were some schools last year, CS or Gamba said, if you don't, because people were trying to do lip service to tell us that they were actually getting something done, then they said, okay, they're not going to open. Eventually, they were given the license to go back to school. But these ones, where things like this happen, when you have not ensured certain things, why is it so difficult to say, excuse me, as the bell tolls, we are not opening this school until you meet and maintain. You see, it's not just meeting, because you can meet for me today, I come. Yeah. But then what if I showed up randomly on the 17th of July and asked you, hey, sis, how far? How am I going to be sure that what I gave you the green light for is still the standard? You see, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah. The guy with the switch comes back at 12, whether there's somebody watching or not, and puts on the switch. Comes back at 4, puts on the switch and fills his report, because not that somebody is watching him, because he knows that in the absence of the fulfillment of his duty, there will be danger. Until we reach that level of responsibility and accountability, there will be more fires. There will be more destruction. There will be more death. Am I sounding sensational? Yes. Because until we do, we will continue crying. We will continue begging God to have mercy. We will continue hoping that things get better. But I think there's even a point where God says, yes, I understand. You need me to come down. But you know what? I've given you all that you need. So just do it. Do it. Do it. I'm thinking about the impossible task that father who was stripping yesterday, not to tell anybody, the impossible task of coming to terms with any kind of reality that his daughter is dead. And then you want to come and tell that person in the image of somebody else tomorrow that the same thing has happened. Impossible. So when you think about it like that, then you will say, yes, be sensational, make noise, shout on the radio on SpiceFM, do the noise, make the noise. But something has got to give. Can you imagine? We were in this room.
Yeah.
With maybe different people in 2021, shouting about precious talent and saying, how do you put children in a school and then you enforce it with the chicken wire? We were shouting. We made noise. We said, no, this cannot happen. We next one made noise again. Now we are here. In Russia, we cried. And we said, how can this happen? We cried again. Now we are crying again. And you have the panacea. But you choose not to engage it.
Nduh.
Ah, man.
I think right now, this conversation, we've had it and called on duty bearers to do their job. I think there's the right time for us to tell parents, we have waited for a very long time for the government to do what it ought to do. 16 is a number that we shouldn't be reporting today if we only met the code. Therefore, parents, today is time for you to go to that school and demand to see these things. It is parents to push these schools and the administrators of these schools to meet that code. Because we'll keep on waiting for government to act, and we have just proved that since 1994, nothing has happened. We are the parents with these children in these schools. We are the ones who are paying school fees. We are the ones who are burying these children.
Yes.
We are the ones who are burying these children. The government of the day will come and say, we will meet the burial expenses.
Doesn't care.
But I have lost my child. So for parents today, insist to go to that dormitory, look at where your child is sleeping. If anything, demand for the plans for that dormitory and the number of children who are supposed to be there. Demand to look at the exit and entry ways for that dormitory. Look at that window. Insist for grills to be removed, because we can't afford to sit and say the government will act. It is only through that then the pressure will escalate and the government will be forced to act. Because remember, this government is for us. It has proved it is not working for us. We must therefore push until that point where things start moving. Because we will come up with a report. The DCI will give their report.
Oh, yeah. Somebody's crunching it right now. The report
will give us
be out.
A report.
Yeah.
But so far, the first time it happens, it's by accident. The second time, I did not know. The third time, it was by design. All these reports that are on those shelves just collecting dust is by design. Until when will we say enough is enough? We need things to change. Or are we waiting for another point, then Nduh to start shouting on the radio? Yet we have an opportunity of going to these schools and fixing these things as parents with children in those spaces. And as well, what are we telling these students? Because if the students could speak, who knows? Maybe they would be heard. But you're looking at children not as people. We are looking at them as cabbages that shouldn't be heard. Yet they have opinions. Who knows? Who knows if someone had just spoken up? Who knows?
Or somebody had done something about it.
Or someone had done something about it. If all these education officials had walked in there and looked at these spaces and said, it does not meet code. Until that time when it meets code, will not allow students to be in these dormitories. Because you want to tell me, if you were a parent at that school and you walked that dormitory and saw the door locked from outside, you would not raise a question.
I said we're not going to school.
Tell me about it.
I said that day we were
exactly.
I said that day we all sleep here. We are not going to school today. We are not learning here. We're not doing whatever we need to do here. We shut it down.
You walk into a dormitory and you're seeing 3 bunkers. Where a 10-year-old jumping from a bunker down in case of fire. You as a parent would not raise concern about it.
So they keep you out because they know that they're not doing the right thing.
They're doing the wrong thing. So for parents, push until that time when the right thing is done. If the government will not do it, we will push the government to do the right thing.
I'd rather they call you mad and radical, but you're insisting on something to be done so that we avoid this insanity that is in the minds of the parents of 16 girls today. Do you know, I had a thought. I mean, call it morbid, but me and my thoughts sometimes. But I thought about the girls who heard the screams of their classmates, their dorm mates, who died and they couldn't do anything about it. Who today now they're saying we need to counsel them because it's possible that they would actually run mad. Yes, those are the things that we are talking about today. That somebody is going to be affected. Yes, it is sensational because it is. It is sensational. It's crazy because it is. If you can point to paper the things that have been recommended over time and you refuse to do them, if it doesn't make you run mad, then I don't know what is wrong.
Yeah, the problem. Let me just read for you what a student said. A student from Mutanu Girls Academy, Gilgil, Nakuru County, narrated the horror of a night inferno at the school's dormitory. She said Wednesday was a holiday. The learners went to the dormitory earlier and usually observe the weekend timetable. We went to sleep at 9 p.m. after refreshing ourselves. However, at around midnight, someone shouted for everyone to leave their cubes because the dormitory was on fire. Confused, the hundreds of students did not know what to do. Drills, remember the drill conversation where they're supposed to run to? They did not know what to do. While some scampered for safety, others screamed for help, and others suffocated. By the time she left her bed, the fire had covered the entire cube. By the time I was leaving the bed, the fire had covered the hallway of Cube 6 and Cube 7, and we could not get to the door. Forced to return to the safer side of the cube, the student said some started suffocating as smoke choked them. She said, amid the confusion and trauma, they were forced to open the window and jump. Our cubes were in the first floor, but we had no option but to jump. When I hit the ground, I could not feel my hands and legs. She said she felt her leg and hand break, then lost consciousness. The student only regained consciousness at St. Joseph Hospital in Gilgil, where she was undergoing treatment. I saw doctors at the hospital who did first aid to me. They said I had fractures in my hand and injured my head. We've talked about drills. We've talked about exit and entryways. If these children had been taken through these processes, whenever someone made noise that there was fire, they would have known exactly where to go and what to do. We have staircases, but do we have exit staircases from outside whenever there is fire? Because in such a case, whenever there is fire, these kids know we come through this way. This is the way we always go inside. They don't know about the other route. They don't know if there is staircases from outside that would enable them leave. The easiest way for this girl was to jump from the first floor. Yet this building we saw was a 3-story building. So what happened to those who jumped from the 2nd story? From the 3rd story? These are kids. And as parents, this is a child who's narrating exactly what happened. What is our responsibility in ensuring that this doesn't happen? It is about time as parents as well, we stop saying, nimepeleka mtoto shule aende kusoma. Aende kusoma wapi? In what conditions? In what surrounding? Parents must be part and parcel of all these drills. They must be part and parcel of designing these dormitories where their children will be in. Communities around that school should be able to come in and make decisions for children from within and without. Because schools are in communities. It is community members who ran with ladders to save those children.
That is it.
They should have an input in buildings being set up for children of the Republic. It can't be that it is someone who's coming in with a CDF and an architecture without involving the members on where the children will be. It cannot be. It can't be.
Shut it down. This is what I'm saying. If you because what you've said, I don't know whether it's greed. You don't want to spend a little more extra money to make sure that standards are kept, or that you do what you need to do. The people sleeping on mattresses that are wafer thin, kinds of things that are essentially those ones that are just raw, dry tinder for fire. These are the things that we are talking about. Is there a certain kind of mattress that you must have in rooms? Should you have fire-resistant material that is used to make beds? Yes, it's expensive. It's expensive. But you know what? So are the lives of 16 girls who will never see their family again.
No.
You can't compare the value on life to a little bit more in terms of shillings that you're going to spend on a mattress that's supposed to be compliant for certain safety standards. Or don't put the grills on the window, for crying out loud. Yeah. Use another material if you want to secure the thing.
What kind of paint are we having on our walls? That is... It is highly combustible, highly inflammable.
This is what we're talking about.
What kind of wood are we using? Is it engineered wood that whenever there is fire, it can withstand that? What kind of materials are we putting in there for us to say this building is safe? What does the code say? Did we follow the code?
We have to get to the point whereby you can take this sensationalism and call it what you want. But if you're not radical in the details, then absolutely. Then you're going to go with that story that's on page 2 of the Standard today, and you're going to say, then be ready for more. Be ready for more destruction. Be ready for more death. If we are not going to insist that certain levels are kept and that certain standards are established and then maintained, and that if people will not do their job, then that question that we ask, should all of these non-compliant institutions and schools be shut down? Yes.
Yes.
Shut it down. Shut it down, and somebody has to take this thing by the reins. If you're not going to take it by the reins, that's when we're going to have people landing with helicopters in Gilgil, and people are going to come by and now start crying and say, oh, you had an opportunity, we'll meet and we'll form a task to find out what happened. If you don't do what task forces have told you to do in 1994, 2001, 2004, 2008, 2016, if you don't do what they have told you to do, you will bury more. It sounds morbid, but that's the truth. You have to be radical. Otherwise, be ready for more. It's 8 a.m.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Good morning. This is the news. I'm Sheila Tembor. Government spokesperson Isaac Mwaura says the government is committed to supporting victims of the fire tragedy at Tutumishi Girls Academy in Nakuru, which claimed the lives of 16 students. In a statement, Mwaura said investigations are ongoing alongside DNA identification of the victims and counseling services for affected families. He added that the government is also reviewing measures to prevent similar incidents in schools.
Serikali imechukua muda huu kutoa rambirambi na pole kwa wale wote ambao wameathirika na janga hili la moto katika shule ya wasichana ya utumishi kule Gilgil. Government pathologist Dr. Johnson Nduh tayari yuko pale kuhakikisha kwamba amechukua zile sample ili tuweze kujua kiini cha moto ule. Na tutaendelea kama serikali kuweza kuwapatia nguvu na kuwasaidia wazazi na walimu na hata watoto wakati wa kipindi hiki kigumu.
Academic activities at the school have been suspended temporarily as authorities work to ensure the safety, treatment and support of affected students and families. New details have emerged in the inquest into the killing of Rex Masai during the 2024 anti-finance bill protest, with IPOA accusing police officers of obstructing investigations and withholding key deployment records. The court heard that Officer Isaiah Murangiri allegedly gave investigators false information about his phone numbers while mobile data placed him near the protest scene instead of the KICC gate where he claimed to have been stationed. IPOA investigator Justin Nyatete told the court that video footage and witness accounts identified Isaiah Murangiri operating undercover alongside uniformed officers near the scene of the shooting. Although investigators confirm Murangiri carried a tear gas launcher and a small firearm, ballistic test did not link his weapon to the bullet that killed Masai. Nyateta said detectives were unable to recover the fatal bullet or identify the firearm used, adding that investigations were hampered by lack of cooperation from police officers.
And you confirm that the mobile phone data places him near the scene of crime?
Yes, Your Honor. That is St. Ellis.
Near where Rex Masai died?
The inquest continues with cross-examination of the IPOA investigator set for 15th June. In other news, residents of several villages in Ololmasani Ward, Emuru-Wadikiri constituency in Narok County are living in fear following the mysterious deaths of more than 25 dogs and cats. Led by Pastor Chipkony from Kuresiet village, appealed to the county government to send veterinary experts to investigate the cause of deaths.
Kwa majina ninaitwa Pastor Chipkony, naishi upande wa Kuresiet, Manyata village. Tunaona shida ya mbwa na paka wameanza kukufa ovyo ovyo, na vile hatujajua ni nini hii shida inatokea wapi. Tunaomba serikali kama watu wa veterinary waone vile watafanya ili wakuje kwa kijiji. Tumeona kama wiki mbili hii ugonjwa imeanza, sasa watu wameanza kuona shida. Tunaona kama vijiji 5 Kapkongori na upande wa Kona na Manyata village na Gitenden East, hiyo maneno ya mbwa inaendelea hapo kabisa.
The residents said the affected animals experience excessive salivation before dying within 48 hours. Narok County Director of Vet Services Gideon Keyasha said experts were dispatched to the area and confirmed an outbreak of canine distemper.
tumefuatilia kufanya uchunguzi kuhusu kifo ya umbwa na paka katika area ya Lolmasani, na tumeweza kuona kwamba kuna ugonjwa ambayo imekuwa ikisambazwa kwa paka na umbwa katika hiyo area. Tumetuma madaktari wetu ambao wako kwa ground, na preliminary process ambayo tumepata tunaona ni ugonjwa unaitwa canine distemper, ambaye ni ugonjwa ya paka na umbwa. Hii ugonjwa haiwezi leta madhara kwa binadamu ama wanyama wengine kama ng'ombe ama mbuzi, lakini kama county government tutaanza process ya ku request for vaccine ya canine distemper ili tuweze kuja kusaidia watu wa hiyo area ya Lolmasani.
And that's the news. I'm Sheila Tembor.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on Spice FM.
I am also a publicly elected official. Okay. My salary is paid by your taxes.
Yes.
So if you need me to answer questions, we will not run away from you.
Asante.
We will always be here.
The government itself is engaging in corrupt practices. That the government itself deliberately schemes to influence through bribery members of parliament.
You pay for a passport online. Alafu you're told there are no booklets.
I rebuke matters corruption because corruption has brought this country to its knees.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on Spice FM.
Members of parliament, they go to settle, they just promised they get given tea, mandazi, and 100,000. That's not development.
External borrowing, 589 billion. Are we on the same page? What did parliament pass?
If anything happened to our president today, God forbid, that man would become president. Na ndio alilenga hizo stories za Shakahola.
The real thing is our constitution has only one person who is accountable to us.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on Spice FM.
Baba should disown these experts and they say they went there on the because he keep on telling us that these experts just you came from Dubai and you found them they're already at State House looking for jobs.
Government has to has to introduce austerity measures. It's something that this government and the previous ones have not been able to do in this country. We've talked about it so many times.
And really, I think you have seen the modus operandi of William Samoei Ruto since he came in. It's just showbiz.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
It's 7 minutes after 8 o'clock and our conversations continue this morning. The heavy and the clouds are still so, but that doesn't mean that we stop discussing and we stop holding folks accountable. It's not for a political side, it's for the people. It's for the people. And we're getting into a conversation this hour when we're going to look at a number of things that blurred lines yesterday in terms of, okay, so where should the focus of the nation be? Many would argue, well, then maybe it was good that prayers were held yesterday because then maybe it stayed a number of things from happening. We'll get into that conversation in just a little bit, but Mr. Aseto,
yes,
you want to tell me why I should put something aside today for tomorrow?
Yeah, you need to put something aside today for tomorrow because remember, you grind every day, and you grind every day because you want a good life. Like I keep saying, being an ambassador of good life, you want that life to transcend beyond you. So the kind of legacy that you leave for your children. But how do you do that? You do that by having a plan today. So Britam Whole Life Plan is here to tell you that you can come. Let's hold your hand. Let's put money aside, so you can get to between 10, 15, 20 years. And you're talking of amounts starting from 5 million all the way to 100 million.
Okay.
Right? Mm-hmm. And when you do that, you're able to assure that when you go, because it's not a question of if, to go, you will go. Must go, must go. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So when that time for you to go comes, you are assured that those that you leave behind have a life that is great, because the amount that you have, once you're done with paying the premium, it accrues interest of 3% every month for the rest of your life. And when you go, they get that money immediately tax-free. So Britam says, for you to get this, you send an SMS with the word life and your town to 21778, or you call 0705 100 100 or WhatsApp as well, and you're able to get the assistance that you do need, because the legacy we must leave.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
And it's not a matter of if.
It is when.
It is when. Former nominated Senator Gloria Orwoba is here with us this morning, and we're having a number of conversations. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
A bit in a somber mood, but I'm in good health.
You're in good health?
Yeah.
Happy belated birthday. It was just a couple of days ago.
Yeah, I'm 40 years now.
You don't look a day over 16.
Oh, online they're telling me I'm 60, 65, 70.
Achana now. Chana now.
My online fans. They said I'm 65, so
really? Okay.
I'm just confirming that I'm 40.
I guess 65 is the new 16, but okay. Well, 40 is a good year, isn't it?
Yeah.
From all
they
that
said life begins at 40. Let's see.
Do let us know.
Yeah.
How that is. And even as we're able to laugh a little bit, of course, in celebrating you, yesterday national prayers took place, and this took place on the backdrop of, in the face of 16 girls who died in a terrible fire incident. And we're going to go into some of those things this morning. Quite a number of things in terms of looking at how things are playing out. But Dennis has taken us to the Gambia this week.
Okay.
So in the Gambia, they conduct the election using glass pebbles. So they use glass pebbles to elect.
Glass pebbles?
Yeah.
They don't have ballot papers?
No.
Nope.
What's their population?
2.8 million.
Yeah, that's like Nairobi.
It's half of Nairobi.
Yeah, it's half of Nairobi. But another thing, now that I'm assuming you'll be celebrating your birthday, right? So they have over 600 species of birds. So if you love bird watching, that's the place to be.
600 species?
600 species of birds. So yeah. But let's go to the proverb. However black a cow is, the milk is always white.
Where? Umesema shetani ni shetani. Wow. Akiwa shetani mlight, bado ni evil. Akiwa light skin, akiwa black skin, spirit ni ile ya ushetani. I think that's my understanding of it. Yeah.
Broke it down simply. Yeah. Well said.
I mean, considering everything that's going on a serious note, it's one of those things where it's unfortunate, and this is why people don't have any trust in any of the politicians. Yeah, because there's an assumption that, as you have said, however, black the cow is, the milk is still white. Yeah. So, that would be my interpretation of it.
Well said, well interpreted.
Yeah.
Indeed. So, I mean, there's still a lot of heaviness, as it should be, over the clouds of the country at the moment. And there's just something that it's just not sitting right.
It feels like there's a spirit hovering over this country.
What does that mean?
To me, there are people who live life not understanding the spiritual realms. I have been those kind of people until the recent years. And there's a whole other spiritual realm of things happening. And people call me crazy or insane when I say that we have a regime that is cultic. And for me, when I look at what's happening and how things are being, how the leaders of this regime are reacting to the things that are happening, it is a confirmation that we elected a cult.
That's really serious.
That's how I feel, though.
In those,
And you know, people call you crazy at the beginning until when they start realizing it. You know how they say first they'll call you crazy, then So I know that there's a lot of people thinking, you know, this one lost her mind. No, I didn't lose my mind. I experienced and had the unfortunate privilege of witnessing a lot of things that shouldn't happen, and a lot of what I would call cultic behavior. Yeah.
If that's the case, then a national prayer breakfast then kind of makes sense, isn't it? Because if you're talking about there needs to be deliverance and prayer, then that makes sense.
Indeed, if indeed we were praying to God.
Everybody, people congregated at the prayer breakfast yesterday. The day before, when the First Lady met, you know, a number of women's groups, she said that I feel that we need to pray specifically for the months of June and July.
Let me ask you, what's the reason why we go to specific churches? Why don't you just go to any church? Why don't you just go to any gathering? After all, it says where two or more are gathered, God is there. Because there are some people who gather in the name of God, but we know that that is not really the agenda. There's a whole spiritual life out here. And when I look at how the things were conducted during the prayer days, there was a lot of mockery, you know. The politicians were joking a lot around things. The president barely took the issue of the breaking news of the fire seriously. He mentioned it as a by the way towards the end. The leaders in that space almost appeared as if what has happened is a very small thing, you know. It was like, oh, the wind has blown, and okay, let's continue with our activity. They went ahead to eat and dine. It almost reminds me of that picture in the Bible where Jesus entered this space where people were dancing and eating and dining, and he was like,
"What are you guys doing?
What are you guys doing?" You know, it felt like that yesterday. Like you have been chosen to leadership to take care of these people. And terrible things are happening to these people who you're supposed to take care of, and you are completely unawares. You're not there. It doesn't move you. There was no... You couldn't even feel. In fact, you would have to walk into that room and say, guys, can we stop celebrating or doing whatever we're doing? Because 16 very innocent lives have been lost.
You know, Gloria, I was looking at the National Prayer Breakfast as it was happening, because we had a split screen. So we had parents who had shown up to collect their children or collect the bodies of their children. And here we have the National Prayer Breakfast that many had even suggested cancel it. There are urgent pressing matters to address right now as the leader of the country. And there's another side that was saying, based off the presidential protocol, that was not to be discussed. The reason why the president did not handle it. And one asked the question,
what do you mean presidential
at what
protocol?
Point then does protocol become important than the people you're leading?
It's, you know what it is? It's just a leader who's inhumane. He's not... honestly, I want to say he's not a human being. That's what I want to say, because I can't even see myself as even a senator getting into dressing up and going for a prayer day, especially if it means that my presence in a different place, which I could actually accord my presence to these parents. I don't know. I just feel like there's this. We have normalized insensitivity. We've normalized evilness. Because let me ask you something. I mean, people are saying, oh, whatever, now you're in opposition, so everything that this government does is wrong. That's not the case. During Dr. Fred Matiang'i's regime, there were more than 100 fires in a very short period of time. I think that was 2016. Yeah. And there was this, it was almost like a culture of when the students were unhappy, for whatever reason, they would just light up a fire. And several things were put into account. And actually, the government of the day then tried to address it in a way that it was a concern. You know? You remember that's the time when paraffin was no longer, they stopped selling paraffin in jerry cans because the assumption was that people are using it for arson and all these other illegal activities. So there was actually a concern. You could feel the leaders at that time being concerned, like, what is going on? I remember Dr. Fred Matiang'i he went before the parliament, both houses, the National Assembly and the Senate, and they were interrogating what could be the problem and all these things. And at one point, what was appeared, people actually said that he's insensitive because they said we have to come down hard on the people who are starting the fires, including the students. At that time, it was a big conversation because they were saying, oh, why do you want to come down hard on those students? And he said, because listen, arson is a very big criminal activity. Whether you are a 6-year-old, whether you are a 10-year-old, whether you're a 20-something-year-old, arson is arson. And he put his foot down. And then the Moi girls incident happened. And why I want to draw attention to the Moi girls incidents, the Moi girls fire tragedy, let me not call it an incident, fire tragedy, is because I want to try and have Kenyans remember, when you have a government that cares for you, or at least even a cabinet secretary that cares for you, these are some of the things that they would do. Number one, it was not showing up for photos. If you can pull up the clips of Dr. Fred Matiang'i going to Moi Girls, people had seen this guy as a tough guy, a no-nonsense person. And when he was at Moi Girls, he almost broke down in tears. It was the first time people felt that Dr. Fred Matiang'i was a human being, because they had been seeing this very abrasive person, a no-nonsense person. And then, the Moi Girls fire tragedy happened, showed up, and it broke his heart. And we can see it from how the images from that day. And then it's not only just about that. That particular case defined it. In fact, after the Moi Girls fire tragedy, you can see the decline of all the fire tragedies in the schools, because the cabinet secretary and his appointing authority, the president of the day, said, no, enough is enough. We have to hold people accountable. Investigations began. The head teacher, the matron, about 15 or something students were taken in. There was this huge seriousness on what they're going to do. And eventually, the student that was responsible for starting that fire, whether the intent was to kill or not to kill, the student that was responsible was jailed. The leaders who had showcased what you call negligence in terms of duty of care, they paid for it. The other students who were part of the incitement and everything, I remember even there was a conversation of their parents having to pay for some of the damages of the school. And after the Moi Girls fire tragedy, I want you to go down and look at now the record of what happened. The fires just stopped. Not stopped, but declined. Now, this is what I keep saying, is that yes, accidents happen. And by the way, this is what I have. In fact, as I was coming here, I was telling my driver, those innocent students did not die because of a fire. Those innocent students died because they were locked in. They could not escape. The emergency exits were locked. All forms of, they were in prison. That's why they died. They couldn't get out of because I understand, and I could be wrong, we are waiting for the report to come out, but I understand this was not late in the night. The fire started, it's not like it was dead in the night. So I just think that until we have leadership that, first of all, is human, because I don't think these people are human. Until we have leadership that is human, that understands what Kenyans are going through, and that are able to showcase that their leadership is really about the people of Kenya. We can be talking about all sorts of things, but we will end up importing Ebola, for instance.
We're going to go to that we're going to go to that in just a minute.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that you say this, because when we look at the multi-layered issues around this fire in schools, because as far back as you can go, there have been fires in schools, and it's been unrest. And why we are saying this is, it's not just us who look at the pictures of the day or hear from students. There were task forces that were set up, headed by committee chairpersons, to find out what happened and what could be the reason why some of these things occur in the manner in which they do. They found the reasons. Not only did they find the reasons, but they made recommendations as to what was to happen, so that we then see this goes away. It might interest you to know that all not some, all of the task forces and the reports that they put together thereafter and the recommendations that they brought forward, all of them are collecting dust on, I don't know whose grandmother's shelf.
Yeah.
So, does it show a seriousness to actually deal with this thing, or then is it just a photo op for us to come and stand around and cry when this thing happens and we can do something about it?
Every time you hear a government entity saying, we are forming a task force, forget about it. When you just hear, or a working group, forget about it. I keep saying we sincerely do not need any other policy document. We do not need any other task force. We have everything that it takes. Our problem is we don't like to implement. Yeah. By the way, all those task force and working groups and whatever, they all at one point contributed to a 78-page manual of what they're calling standard safety guideline. When the Hillside and the Russia fire tragedy happened, I personally reached out to the cabinet secretary. This was 2024. And I said, you know what? I've gone through, because we discussed it in Parliament at some point. So I said, I've gone through the 78-page document of the safety, standard safety guideline. Yeah. And I said, but how do you expect this to be implemented? It's not direct. What it needs, it needs someone to sit down and turn it into a 2-page checklist. So that from the 2-page checklist, it is disseminated to all the schools, because the 78-page policy document on guidelines talks about a lot of things. Yeah. But, for instance, if you're going to say how to keep this space, by the way, I have a background in critical facilities. That's why I'm this is like my area of expertise. If you're going to say we're going to keep this space safe, first, you have to think about things, accessibility, the environment in terms of even just the air that you breathe in, whether it's the air conditioning, whether it's what. You're going to look at all sorts of things down to the flooring, pests, if there's any, things like that. But also, you're going to look at disasters. And disasters are not only fire incidences. You can have floods, you can have terrorist activities or attacks, all sorts of disasters. That 78-page manual actually talks about all these things, including droughts, floods, fires, all those things. The problem is, you take a 78-page manual and you share it to all the schools. And then you task the board of management, together with the leadership of that school, which is the headmaster, to say, now there is your 78-page manual. We expect that you comply. Everyone will have their interpretation of accessibility. Everyone will have their interpretation of accessibility. And even if you go down to say that the access doors must be this big and they must open outward, and what must they be made of? Because if they are made of metal, it doesn't mean, then even if they're this big and they open outward, if I'm going to touch it, when there's a fire, it's hot, I can open it. So there are so many other ways, and I think, and let me tell you something, this is not only happening in the schools. This is a tragedy that can happen anywhere, including our port, the Kenya Port Authority, which does not even have a facilities management team. Can you imagine a critical facilities like the port does not have all these things you're talking about, fire safety, forget it. So when I looked at that document, I remember during the Russia tragedy, I told the cabinet secretary, why don't you task your team there, the directors of those various departments, to sit down and interpret this into a 2-page checklist, so that the checklist is now disseminated to the schools.
What would that checklist look like?
It would look something.
So if you say you have a room,
it would look something like this.
Do not have more than 20 beds.
It would look something like this. You start access points.
Yes.
Yeah. Then you say 5 doors or 2 doors or 3 doors. If you go to a place and you're like, if it's this big square meters and it only has 1 door, then you have not complied.
Exit.
Yeah. It would look like this: windows, no grill, made of this, made of that. It would look like this. If you have more than 2-story dormitory, these are some of the extra things that you have to put. On top of that, it would also have, forget the usual fire extinguishers and that, first aid kits. Yeah.
Fire blankets.
Okay, forget even just fire. Now let's talk about an active shooter. You know, who says that's not going to happen in this? You know, who says that is not a scenario? That can be a scenario. Forget that. Let's talk about a knife incident, you know? So, and by the way, when you read the 78-page document, it's very comprehensive. So it is actually easy to bring it down to a 2-page checklist, which we can start by there. And then, you know, the thing with critical facilities or facilities management is, with time, you can fine-tune it. Something happens, you realize, oh, we never really thought about lighting, or we never really thought about, you know, this, or in the Mount Kenya region, this is also what we need to add for all the schools because the weather is different. In the Asal region, because it's more prone to other disasters, this is what it should look like. But you can't sit as a Ministry of Education with all these schools and say we have a 78 policy document and we hope everyone to implement it. What are you doing? By the way, during Dr. Fred Matiang'i's tenure, he had the field officers go out actually to the field to check for compliance. Field officers during his tenure in the Ministry of Education were never sitting in the office because they had things to do. If you are a field officer covering a certain county or a certain region, you have to go and check compliance on safety, compliance on head count, how many students per class, compliance on this extra, extra fees that people are put. There was a lot of compliance that they were doing. So the field officers had things to do, such that by the time an incident, a fire or any other incident happens, it is easy for them to say, I was there 3 weeks ago. This is the report I gave. And I can tell you that the negligence is on this point. But we don't have that. So now what we have, first of all, with this regime, is we have a one-man show. First, you have the president who wants to run everything down to the toilet in the school. Yeah. Then you have the cabinet secretaries who are oblivious, very oblivious of anything that's happening. I mean, we saw the cabinet secretary of education yesterday. He looked like a flower girl. He looked like Murkomen was the one in charge of the press conference. Murkomen from Interior, who landed in a chopper, was the one now telling us, and they even turned a very painful moment. I was so disgusted by Murkomen. By the way, that guy, they turned a very painful moment to a sort of semi-campaign. Justice must be done. People were clapping. What are you clapping? What are you We have been conditioned to hate ourselves so much. We've lost our children. We are still at the site where the children died, and then we are clapping for a cabinet secretary who landed in a chopper on a 1 hour time difference. He could have driven there. And people were clapping. They were clapping. I said, now if you don't understand things in the spiritual realm, look at that. If that is not the devil. Because to me, that was something else. That you can come, spit in the faces of people who have gone through a tragedy, lost their kids, and try to make it a political affair in the sense that you're even giving this sense of, I'm talking, I'm here, the camera, clap for me. I was so disgusted.
Gloria, when you talk about those kids, many have been burnt beyond recognition as we speak. I remember I was speaking to one of our colleagues there, and this was his word. It is harrowing to be here. Parents are devastated. They don't know what to say. And these are incidences that have happened, and we don't see heads roll. It is business as usual. And earlier we had a discussion about this, and we talked about we must be radical for things to move. Not just government, but even parents themselves must take this upon themselves to ensure that this code they understand. If the children are in these rooms, they go to these dormitories, because ask any parent out there who has visited where the children are sleeping, and many will tell you they don't,
not seen
because
it,
they are not allowed to. They're not allowed to. Just how radical then must we all be?
But you can't blame parents and Kenyans, because when have you ever been in a toxic relationship? No, honestly, let's bring it. When you're in a toxic relationship, you even forget what is normal.
Yeah.
You're so used to being beat down that when you lose your child in school and then as cabinet secretary flies in, you clap for him.
Clap for them.
So you can't blame the victims, because the victims here are literally, they're you can say traumatized. They've been in a long-term toxic relationship with their leadership. They don't even know what to expect anymore. People are even forgetting what their rights are. Parents have been reduced. Have you ever gone to a school, these schools, when they're doing the intake, and you see how parents are talked to and treated? That's what it is. It means we forgot to draw the line somewhere. We've gone so far out, we don't know where the line is. Such that, you can be told, drop your school, you can't go to where your child is sleeping, and you think it's normal. Because that's how you're so used to this toxic leadership. So, and I mean, we have responsibility to some extent has to be put on the parents. And in fact, yesterday I was, because people have been very mad at my utterances on my social media pages.
Yeah, you went quite out, didn't you?
But the truth, you can't sugarcoat the truth. Yeah. You can't you want people to sugarcoat the truth, but then when the truth hits you hard, you are wondering why they are taking choppers and asking to be clapped for. You can't sugarcoat the fact that, first of all, when I hear people saying, don't politicize this is a political issue. Because a cabinet secretary is a political appointee. You understand? So when you start watering down institutions through the political appointees, it is a political issue. Because if we were just taking technocrats, we would not be talking about politics. Number two, budget allocations and even implementation of policy and framework is purely driven by politics, where we are in Kenya. Until yesterday, many people didn't even know that we had a standard safety guideline that already exists.
Yep.
But you see, because politically, they have refused to take charge and implement basic things that should be implemented. I was literally saying, if Nduh, the principal of that school, would have been arrested and would have been in jail now. If the boarding master, whoever, would have been arrested and in jail, and all those people who are responsible, if they were serving time in jail, do you know that the boards of management of all the schools would be so terrified
that they would comply?
They would comply. Why were they not arrested? Why didn't anything happen in Nduh? Because the political goodwill just... Do you know in Nduh, the cabinet secretary didn't even go? The president didn't even go to the school. Actually, I could be wrong about the cabinet secretary, but I'm certain the president didn't even go. And 21 lives were lost.
Oh, that was the time of CS...
Machogo.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you know the Nduh fire tragedy? You would almost think that it is a car that rolled and 3 people died.
True.
Even that task force that they put together, when did you ever hear about anything after that? So the seriousness with which that fire tragedy, which is the latest one, the lack of seriousness is what has made all the other schools. By the way, yesterday, I'm sure 110% there are children who are in a dormitory locked in, and who dormitory with grills locked in, and the matron gone away. Yesterday, I'm sure, I'm certain. Because people are like, and so what? Yeah, unajua hii ni maisha. Ajali ni ajali. I see people commenting on my Facebook page. Ajali ni ajali. Ulikuwa unataka president akue firefighter. Ulikuwa unataka. People just don't understand that it trickles down.
But what's it going to take? And I thought that, earlier as we talked about this, that it's the details that we overlook that actually cause the tragedy that we are then so heavy-hearted about today. That if, like, again, this 78-page document is whittled down into a 2-pager, and that we say, for all the schools in this area, if you have boarding facilities, this is what you must do.
Yeah.
This is not a beg or can you kindly. No.
Because
this
then,
is a standard to
then
set.
It's also easy to hold people
somebody accountable. And to say that we told you to do this. But then what is it going to take? Because you know what? The truth of the fact is that lamentations at some point are sweet. And I said to myself that I cannot imagine the impossible task that parents are having, not to even talk to anybody, that parents are having to impossibility to come to grips with this thing, as they did for every other incident that occurred. It's impossible.
Yeah.
It's impossible to even think from this minute to the next. But at the same time, we have to feed on the hope that it will not happen again tomorrow.
But if we don't,
what is going to be, what needs to happen?
If we
do we
don't,
need to shut down schools that are not compliant?
Yeah,
do we
let me
need
tell
to
you
say
something.
that the Ministry of Education needs to get their ducks in a row?
As a country we are saying that we are not capable of ensuring the safety of our kids in boarding schools, then we need to ban boarding schools. Yeah. If we are saying as a country we are not capable of ensuring safety in those schools, then we literally need to say, okay, imetushinda, no more boarding
come
schools.
To school every
Kila
day.
mtu akae nyumbani kwao. Uko nyumbani, you don't get locked in. You don't get locked in when you're sleeping at home. No. Nobody locks you in there and then goes and leaves you in there. Why would you do it in another institution where your kids are sleeping? And it is as simple as, guys don't understand that leadership. When you have a thief at the top, everyone down starts stealing everything. When you have an inhumane person at the top, everyone down starts doing the same thing. When you have a leader at the top who doesn't take a fire tragedy that has taken the lives of 16 people seriously, that he goes to Safari Park to drink tea and purport to pray, then everyone down there is like, siyo kitu ilifanyika imeisha. Do you know, if you go through that safety guideline, the 78-page document that I'm telling you, it even tells you, besides fire extinguishers, how there should be floor plans of sensitization of the students, understanding, this is the entry, this is the exit, this is where I can hide in case of this, the mapping out of that. It has drill sessions. How many schools have done drills? Drills. And the frequency of how many times you should do it, and who should be in charge. It has many things, including whistles, because and torches in case maybe you can't shout far, whatever. But then there's a principal right now sitting and looking at it and saying hatuna pesa. Lakini cabinet secretary atalanda na chopper. Iyo chopper tu ililanda hapo. Those are how many fire extinguishers for how many schools? Iyo chopper tu, because I can tell you back and forth costed him a minimum of 350,000 Kenya shillings. A fire extinguisher nowadays, if you get it in bulk, you can get it about 1,800, depending on the capacity. Yeah. So even just him landing in the chopper is him not understanding, what, you think about it. And then this prayer day that we had,
because it culminates in that, because we spent another 5 hours after this praying. And so what is it? So even
the prayer day, everything about it.
Gloria?
No, but you can't. Let me ask you, are you saying that if the prayer day was removed, this country will have no prayers? What is the worst case scenario?
If people actually pray, they could pray in their...
I listened to Njeri talking on austerity measures, and his spirit is in the right place. And I said to myself, do you know, if you just cut the budget of travel in Parliament to 0, do you know how much you save? Billions. For one financial year. Billions. And I'm sure it's over 2B. Just on travel. So when you're saying, we don't have money for capitation, we need to raise taxes, that's a lot of BS. I mean, if you look at what the president is doing, all these activities, that tent that they have up in State House, how much does it cost? Because they have a tent. Why do they have a tent in State House?
People are coming,
Why? Why? To do what?
To attend to guests.
Why? Why?
Teachers today, doctors tomorrow.
Why?
17 billion.
Listen, it is cheaper for you, President Ruto, to go to the people than the people to come to you in State House. That is an austerity measure. It is. If it's me, it's like me sitting in my house and saying, now I'm going to bring all my electorate to my house. I put up tents, buy sodas, put security protocols and what they're telling you, the reason why they couldn't cancel the presidents to the prayer and whatever. It is cheaper for you as an individual to go to the people. Yeah? How come Waikibaki never brought people to State House? Yeah? And how did that affect the budget then? So some of these things, even for schools, yes, the teachers now are saying, the principals, the biggest thing is who's going to pay for all these fire extinguishers? We are not allowed to put the cost down to the students and to the parents. They should demand. We need to get to a place where we say, okay, in fact, no, we are demanding that until these things are done, capitation and this, we don't want anything else happening. When you see people taking photos saying, now they've gone for conferences, now you've gone for this conference, and now you've gone for Apple Agriculture What Seed Nini conference, where we come mbunge. Alafu? Even that, it's because there's no accountability, because there is no way. We are not given anything. From the corporate life when you travel, there's accountability. Yeah. Aside from just attending the actual conference, sometimes you even have sales targets. Yep. Sometimes even you're told you must come back having, made this collaboration with this company. There's a target. And that's the reason why even our embassies now, in our high commissions and embassies abroad, we are just using them as people hanging around. But if those people had targets of the amount of business they bring in, but we are not intentional about how we spend our money. That's why we can now say, we're having a problem. We can't put fire extinguishers in schools because we don't have money.
How are Kenyans valued, Gloria? Because the policy is there. We have 75 pages that needs to be whittled down for everybody to understand it. Head teachers are saying, we don't have money to buy all this. But on the very same day where we have 16 Kenyans dying, we have a national prayer breakfast. And we talk about a national prayer breakfast that was turned to be political because what was said in that national prayer breakfast. Nikishindwa nitaenda home. Nikirudi mimi nitaendelea.
I'm glad that he has come to that realization that he's going home.
How are Kenyans valued by their leadership?
Again, I will draw comparisons to toxic relationship. It's the easiest. Hiyo ndio Wakenya wanaelewa. Ukikuwa na mtu mwenye ni mjinga sana hata unaanza kujiuliza how did you reach here? It is the choices also that we make as Kenyans. Yeah, because these leaders are not imposed on us. We choose them. We go out to the ballot and we vote for them and we say, this is the person that I want to come in. So it is a reflection of also how low we have stooped in terms of choosing our leaders. And for whatever reason, the motivation behind voting for that leader, we also need to have some self-reflection, deep self-reflection. Because remember, the president you choose will determine the cabinet secretary you have. There are people in this regime who could not even be receptionists.
What does that mean?
And I'm not saying receptionist is a bad job.
That's what I was about to ask you. I mean, don't hit on the receptionist.
No, I'm just saying there are people on the level of cabinet secretary and permanent secretary. Those are senior director management levels. Forget even receptionists who could not even be entry level program officers. You cannot qualify for an entry-level program officer job, but suddenly you're sitting there and you're now driving policy and governance of a whole sector. How did that person get there? The president you voted.
You said they were political.
And that's why you need to also, during this time of campaign, look at Jimmy Wanjigi. Look at the people around him, because those are the people who are going to end up being cabinet secretaries. You understand? So, because it's normally like that. Look at who else is fronting themselves for president, Look at Dr. Fred Matiang'i. Look at Rigathi Gachagua. Two things that you have to when you're thinking, yes, what does this person stand for? But also, what will his cabinet look like? Because as I've told you, this is the first government that has brought us completely incompetent people to director level, to cabinet level, to ambassadorial level. Remember the ambassador who was they nominated the nominee for I don't know which ambassadorial station.
It was DRC.
Yeah, who couldn't even express himself, but the president saw it fit to nominate them. That is the kind of president that you have, and not to say that all people should look the same or but at least ask yourself, because honestly speaking, this is about capacity, skill set, ability, passion, and the spirit of patriotism. The spirit of patriotism is what we are lacking in the leadership. And it's because some of them they are already shocked. They can't imagine that they're in that position.
Now, when we talk, because this where the rubber meets the road is you have to ask questions around how citizenship is secured, which is the Constitution. If we were just going to say follow the law, follow the Constitution, the primary job of government is to secure the livelihoods of Kenyans through whichever mechanisms that they want to do that. Now, if we're going to segue, still remaining in the same pool that we are talking about now, if we talk about not being able to secure the lives of children in schools and doing the very bare minimum, basic, take care of people, make sure that they can eat, move from point A to point B, and then maybe they can have a little bit of something in their pocket. If you're unable to do that, would you reckon that there is some business that you should be playing when it comes to some international conversations, such as, for example, setting up quarantine centers to then take on America's sick?
No, import Ebola to Kenya.
You know, one thing I was reflecting on my way here.
For money, by the way, it's not free.
One thing I was reflecting on my way here is the Cabinet Secretary for Health.
Yeah.
What does his track record look like in terms of legislation, in terms of what he stands for, in terms of many things? And if you go down that road, you will say no wonder. Because Duale is the same person who was involved when he was in Parliament as the majority leader in changing the Public Finance Management Act such that all the monies that were borrowed as a country for whatever project or reason, at that time used to go to central bank. Duale was involved in the legislation that said it doesn't have to go to central bank, it can go to a private account somewhere in another country.
This is true.
Yeah.
That is the person who is now in charge of the Ministry of Health. Money driven, commercially driven, no spirit of patriotism, an individual who can change as a legislator, push and support an amendment that says if Kenya borrows money, it doesn't have to go to central bank and it doesn't have to be audited through parliament. And it can just go to a company somewhere and the president can do whatever they want to do with it. That is Aden Duale. They did it together with President Ruto that time. So now, considering that is the person you're saying, he's sitting, imagine in an office, let's just put a practical scenario, then he gets a phone call from the Secretary of State from the United States of America. And the guy says, what's up? I have 82 billion Kenya shillings for you for quarantine zones. Niaje unaweza kanisimamisha hizo mavitu kwa airport yenu? That's the person. Then you mentioned some crazy amount of money. And then you think now that person will be like, no, please. I love my country. I don't want Ebola in my country. That person will be like, hey, na percentage ni how much? Commission yangu ni ngapi?
But was it him, or was all of this based on the infrastructure of a relationship that Kenya has with the United States, whereby it was pre-conditioned,
it doesn't matter,
pre-agreed, where they said we can come to you tomorrow?
Offices are defined by office holders. Offices are defined by office holders. An office is not a wall.
So what you're saying, Gloria, is that he should have, in his capacity as a CS, said, okay, hang on, what about the health risk?
Not even in his capacity as a CS Health.
As a Kenyan.
As a Kenyan, as a patriotic Kenyan.
Should have said what?
As a person who has the ability to contract Ebola.
Should have said, oh God, should have said what? Because let's look at it. So yesterday was Thursday, the day before that, which was Wednesday, and it was a public holiday, but it was interesting that we saw very quickly Ministry of Health put out this brief.
They move very swiftly.
The PS put out a brief, the CS put out a brief, Office of I don't know who put out a brief and said this was going to happen, and everybody was like, okay, meaning what? The money story only started coming out yesterday in terms of the amounts, like how much then was going to be given. But the very thing here, it doesn't really matter how you look at the thing, that it doesn't make sense on the head of it. So what would be the sense? And we ask you this question specifically because you frolicked in these circles.
Yeah. And you see, I didn't survive.
And how? What kind of reasoning would then take place where we say, okay, America needs a solid, guys, let's do it?
This is how it works with this regime. How much? How much are we making? Then we work backwards. How much are we making? We are probably going to make 100 million. Okay. Look for the legislation that backs it up. Look for the team looks for the moral thing. Then they work backwards. That's how it works. Yeah? When you saw the diaspora jobs thing, how much are we making? Work backwards. Justify it through a program. Justify it through Pesa Mfukoni. Justify it, maybe 5 or 6 people die, but not everyone dies. They work backwards because how much are we making? And that's why you see, when I say offices are institutions, and so first of all, institutions are made by offices. Offices are made by office holders. Office holders are human beings. If an office holder does not believe in certain things, you will quickly see that office just showcase it doesn't believe in those things. And that's why and by the way, this you can look at different offices that have been held by different people, and then you can see really an office is the office holder. Even just in the case of education, When we had Matiang'i there, people were saying, oh, education, it's the office holder. Then you look at how now that has changed. Different, even within the judicial systems, it is the office holder. When we had Maraga, it was the office holder. He stood up for, that's the time when he nullified elections, because his spirit is a spirit of patriotism, and he really is not afraid. He's not a coward. Then you come and look at the other office holders and you're like, what's happening, So that's why yesterday someone told me, the problem with you argue you're personal. I'm like, there's no other way to deal with this regime other than being personal, because the people who are auctioning our country as quarantine centers are persons, and they have personalities that need to be dealt with on a personality level. I can promise you, there are certain people, if they held the office of Aden Duale, some of the things that you're seeing happening would not happen just based on who those people are.
So, do you see that he should have PS Oluga, PS Muthoni, CS Aden Duale should have said public health protection is one of the things that they've said it before that we're very cautious about, but this flies in the face of what they've actually said before. We know that folks like the Katiba Institute have now taken this petition to the High Court and said that all of this business must be stopped. We're trying to make this. Is it? So are we saying that this thing,
the problem
is commercial in nature?
Yeah, it is commercial. The problem that maybe some of the people you've mentioned there are they're technocrats, hardworking Kenyans. But they have to follow orders from above. Yeah, that's something I wasn't able to do. That's why I was kicked out. Most of the people you've mentioned, by following orders from above means that they have to be negligent. They have to set their beliefs, their professional thinking, everything aside, and just follow what the president or the appointing authority says. It
flies in the face of logic.
Yeah. And the unfortunate thing is, in fact, this is what I want Kenyans to demand. If they are going to go ahead and set up those quarantine centers for the US because they are making money out of it, we want to demand the same way that the cabinet secretaries fly and land on the site with their choppers. We want to demand that the cabinet secretary for health, complete with the whole leadership that is appending their signature to this kind of arrangement, we want to demand that they move their offices to the quarantine centers.
Work from there.
Let them work from the quarantine centers. Yeah. So that, and if they can't work from the quarantine centers, let them tell us why they can't work from them. And then if they say, because there's a risk, so why would you be putting our doctors, our security state personnel, our country at risk? If you think that this thing is okay, what you're doing is fine, say that the quarantine centers are going to be set up from this date to that date, and my office is going to move to the quarantine center. Go and sit there also.
Gloria, we're talking about individuals who are in those offices courtesy of Kenyans. They're not there to serve anyone else, but to serve Kenyans, 55 million people. And Kenyans are speaking, and no one can purport that they've not had Kenyans respond to the request by the United States to set up a quarantine center here. Yet we hear the PS speak, we hear the cabinet secretary, and we're like, whose brief exactly are you holding? Because Kenyans have sent you with a certain brief. Tell the Americans
holding the president's brief.
And what does it get to
the president's
benefit
brief,
from
William
that?
Ruto's brief has never been a brief from the people of Kenya in all sectors. He never speaks for the people of Kenya because Kenyans have been very clear. Walk outside and ask a Kenyan, would you like a quarantine zone set up in Kenya? From whichever cadre. They'll tell you, mnataka kutuletea Ebola, hatutaki hiyo maneno. So which Kenyans are they representing when they say that we have the capacity? Kenyans are not talking about capacity. You cannot even be talking about the capacity to handle Ebola when you cannot even reduce the maternal rates. I heard yesterday the president saying that they lost their child and and that's why Linda Mama doesn't even exist. We don't even have the capacity to just safeguard our newborns who are healthy. But suddenly we have the capacity to deal with Ebola. We don't even have the capacity right now. Enter any level 4, level 5, any hospital, even a clinic, and see if they are going to hand you a mask.
The PS said you handled COVID. Amma?
Let me tell you, I don't like being the person that calls it out. But until this thing comes home, until you have lost a child in a fire, until you have dealt with something personally, and ask yourself, why am I dealing with this thing? Then you draw it back to the leadership. That's why I hear a lot of the cabinet secretaries, the permanent secretaries, members of parliament talking as if when Ebola is imported, as if in parliament will be barricaded and the air there will be clean. As if they will go home to their barricaded homes. As if they will not go to the supermarkets and, they're so removed. I don't know whether you guys have seen it. When I told you this is a very cultic regime, a cultic regime means for you to see it, you also have to open your eyes. These guys are so removed from reality that sometimes you talk to them about basic things and they're like, they're not there. They're thinking about their next trip, their next 100,000 pay from State House. The next event they're going to have to get a microphone and say 2-term. And then shortly, they'll be telling us, we are going to bury so-and-so related to this MP, or even the MPs themselves. Then is when they'll say, the country is coming to an end, and panic, because they don't imagine that it can happen to them.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And that's why it has to be personal. That's why it has to be radical. That's why it has to be
personal, and that's why it has to be radical. And anyone who tells you, wacha kuingiza siasa kwa hii kitu, mwambie, siasa is the reason we have William Ruto in office. Then is the reason we have his cabinet secretaries. Then is the reason his cabinet secretaries are giving orders from above to institutions to water down the institutions. By the time umesimama kwa bus stop na umegongwa na gari,
it's politics.
It is politics.
Gloria Orwoba has been here with us this morning. Some things to think about. Really think about. Asante sana.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. 9 a.m.
The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Good morning. This is Daniela. I'm Sheila Tembor. The Azimio Coalition has removed Bumula MP Jack Wamboka from the Public Investments Committee on Governance and Education and reassigned him to the Committee on National Cohesion and Equal Opportunity. The changes contained in a National Assembly supplementary order paper follow a motion by the Committee on Selection to reconstitute several parliamentary committees. Wamboka's removal comes weeks after his suspension over allegations raised by witnesses, including claims of harassment. He'll now replace Luanda MP Dick Maungu, who moves to the Public Investments Committee on Governance and Education as a substantive member. The reshuffle also affects several other committees with new nominations drawn from across the political divide as part of broader parliamentary reorganization. The House is expected to debate and vote on the proposed changes next Tuesday. Residents of Kinyoro area in Trans Nzoia County are demanding justice for the family of a middle-aged man who was shot dead by a National Police Reservist officer at Olkadongo ADC farm. The residents condemned the killing, describing it as shocking and calling for thorough investigations by the DCI. They want the suspect arrested and prosecuted.
Kienda huko patrol maaskari wako wengi sana, na hali hata huyu msasi ajui mtoto yake kweli aliuawa aje. Statement peke yake haiwezi kuchukuliwa, wala washahidi walikuweka wasitoa ushahidi, hata haipo wenye wanasema si watahitaji ushahidi. So kama ikiandikwa statement itakuwaje? Tuna demand haki ifanyike kwa daktari.
Naitwa Willy Kapkara. Tunataka kudemand haki ya huyo kijana, tuone ni nani aliua. Mtapanda mbegu hapa, hamtapanda. Therefore what ADC watuite tuongee na hawa. Lakini wakifanya hiyo mahindi hawatalima tena, and we are serious.
Kwa majina ni Geoffrey Kirui, na tunaomba serikali itoe sauti wananchi watulie, because wana machungu. Na si kwamba mtu amewa inside, ni hiyo bunduki imesababisha watu kukasirika, kutumia silaha kwa wakati ambao ufai, na kutumia kwa mwanadamu ambaye hangetoroka, angeshikwa angepelekwa kotini.
Former Kinyoro MCA Lawrence Mokosu and Patrick Toboleo, speaking on behalf of Woman Representative Lillian Sioi, also urged security officers to respect the law and protect civilian lives, calling for the matter to be brought before Parliament for further action.
Naomba serikali ifutilie mbali mambo ya KPR. Naambia DCI will take over this matter seriously. They should allow the witnesses to record statement. They should allow the family to record statement. Kwa sababu ile mambo yanatendeka huko, wao wanatisha hata wataki witnesses waandike nini statement. There's something trying to cover.
Naitwa Patrick Toboleo. Kiangalia kutoka sehemu ya Endeves mpaka Saboti kule juu, vijana wengi wamewawa. Kama ofisi ya Mama County mmekubaliana ya kwamba hiyo ripoti itengenezwe mara moja ili aweze kuweka kwa parliament, haki iweze kujulikana, ili tupate suluhisho ya kudumu katika haya mashamba ambaye inapakana na jamii kwa hii mlima.
A woman from Ebukuti village in Butere constituency, Kakamega County, is in police custody as investigations continue into the death of her 10-year-old son. The grade 5 pupil at Manyala Primary School is alleged to have been punished after attending a disco matanga event and loitering in a local market before being beaten and strangled. The incident was reported a day after the child's death on Saturday. Butere Sub-County Police Commander Justus Njeri said preliminary investigations indicate the boy died following assault and strangulation allegedly by his mother.
Alikuwa na riski yenyewe kidogo ati hii maneno ya mtoto kurandaranda kwa disco matanga wapi. Hata ni kama alikufa hiyo siku tu, lakini sasa akachukua another one day, then she came to report, kaenda tukavisit the scene, tukaona vile mwili iko kwa process. Sasa she is being held here. Sisi tumempeleka kotini, tumeomba siku tuweze kumaliza investigation. But by good luck postmortem tayari tumefanya, na yeye ndiye alikuwa na mtoto peke yake. Sasa unajua hizo zingine ni kufuatilia, tunafuatilia.
And Nakada has shut down 2 rehabilitation centers in Makueni and Kilifi counties over serious safety, health and operational violations. The raids by Nakada's compliance teams working with other agencies led to the rescue and relocation of 16 clients to approved facilities. In Makueni, at Good Hope Rehabilitation Center in Titoandei was closed over poor infrastructure, lack of qualified staff and unsafe conditions, with 14 clients transferred. In Kilifi, the Omari project was also shut down, with 2 clients moved to the Miritini Treatment and Rehabilitation Center. Nakada CEO Anthony Omerikwa said nationwide inspections will continue, warning that all non-compliant centers will be closed. And that's the news. I'm Sheila Tembor.
.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on Spice FM.
We look at the utterances of leaders who are aligned to broad-based, who are initially in ODM. We thought they stand for something. Now they've been exposed.
Because we are a third world country, we are poor. And not because we don't have resources, but we have been robbed senseless.
Look at the wasteful expenditure. Look at how large government lives. And we've said this is something that can be controlled. It happens in many other countries.
Internally, we used to stand and tell him, boss, hii kitu ni mbaya. And you'd say, now he doesn't, let me tell you, you saw the other parliamentary group meeting. People went there, sat, listened, looked at him. There was no plenary, left.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on Spice FM.
You have land, Dennis. Okay, your own land. You use your own money to build it, and then you sell it to yourself.
But we don't want foreign troops on Kenyan soil.
But surely it goes a little bit deeper. If you find the tree is withering, then you call the person who is managing that tree. Come around. Why? Tell me what is
first of all, what's the problem?
Yes, what is the problem there?
How do we expect ourselves to move forward as a country?
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on Spice FM.
He is himself actually has admitted that he bribed members of parliament. So
he admitted that he bribed members of parliament.
Well, when he said
the government,
when he said that he gave the 10 million was for what?
We're always quick to point faults in somebody else before you look at your own faults as a person.
If it was Kanu's day, hii amuka naye leo ungekuwa umeenda bali sana hii. So when we must celebrate you.
There are 600 million people now globally estimated to be living with diabetes in the world. So it is a major health problem. It's the largest single disease rising pandemic that we're dealing with right now.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Coming in at 8 minutes after 9 o'clock, and a very good morning to you. Getting into the fourth hour, final conversation for this week in the Situation Room. World Tobacco Day is what we're talking about today. Mm-hmm. But before we get into it, which remind me, remind me.
Yes.
Because, so I've had coffee today, but how I grow wealth.
Yeah.
But then beyond that, making sure that even if I'm not there, that it can actually pass on to somebody else.
Now, let me make it even beautiful for you, right?
Okay.
Samabanis. You're here grounding outside the country. You have your loved ones here, but you want to ensure...
Auntie, what did you say?
Samabanis. So you're grinding outside the country.
Okay. So,
Samabanis, right? Mm-hmm. So you're grinding, you're making ends meet outside the country, but you want to ensure that when your retirement time comes and no matter Okoh and you're back home, right? You want to ensure that legacy continues, so that when you're investing back home, there is a chunk that goes back to ensure that when you leave, because leaving you will leave. It is not if you will go back to heaven where you belong. And when that happens, your loved ones need to be able to continue with that legacy that you set out for them. So Britam whole life is here to tell you that when you come to us, we'll hold you your hand, we'll guide you and tell you how you can be paying mdogo or pay all at once, whichever way you want to do it, between 10, 15 years, and you're able to get between 5 million and 100 million that will be able to cushion your legacy beyond your time.
Okay.
So with over 6 decades, talking about 60 years in the business, Britam Life is here to tell you, trust us. We know this biashara. Do not doubt us. We'll ensure that legacy continues. So we remain a trusted partner in terms of planning. But for you to be part of all this, what do? You need to send an SMS with the word life and your town to 21778. 21778, or you need to equally just call us or send us a WhatsApp on 0705 100 100, and someone on the other end will be there to talk with you, because Britam is telling you it is not about if, it is when.
I'm going to send that SMS today.
Yes.
And I'll tell you how it goes. Yeah, I'm going to tell you how
important.
It goes. All right. I'm going to do that this morning.
Me, I'm not coming back as a ghost to complain. Never.
I reckon that there's a ministry or two that you could live in if you were in a ghost.
Exactly.
But okay, let us not belabor that point beyond that. All right. World Tobacco Day 2026. We're saying World No Tobacco Day. Ansel Minor is a founder, Africa Consumer Advocacy Foundation. He's in the hot seat this morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Karibu sana.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Michael Karaoke, also Secretary General of the Harm Reduction Society of Kenya, not a stranger to the Situation Room. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you both for being here today. Of course, looking at this thing, probably going to be able to unravel it a little bit more. The place of science in tobacco control, it's a science from what we're made to understand, also then allows us to make this part of a Healthy Friday conversation. So we're getting into it. So what we normally do is we go around the African continent every week. We come back from a different African country, and we come back with their proverbs. I keep telling people, I get the chocolates when Dennis goes. You get to interpret the proverb.
Today we are in Gambia. And in Gambia, around a population of around 2.8 million people, so they're not many in number. And one thing that stands out about them is whenever they go to elections, they do not go with ballot papers. They go with glass pebbles. So banta, gunu. That is what they use to that's what they use to elect their leaders. But in terms of their tourism, they have over 600 different species of birds. So if you love bird watching, that's the place to go. I know Nairobi, we don't have birds because it's a concrete jungle, nowhere for birds to perch. But let's go to the proverb. However black a cow is, the milk is still white. However black a cow is, the milk is still white. Daktari, how would you interpret it?
Yeah, thank you. My interpretation is that the purpose of a cow is to produce milk, and it doesn't really matter whether the cow is black, white, orange. At the end of the day, what is critical is the end result. That's my interpretation.
All right. Ansel, how would you interpret it?
I would concur with Daktari here. How would I interpret that is wherever something is coming from, it doesn't change the outcome if the thing itself
has different characteristics. Yes. So the cow is white, black, yellow. The milk will always be white.
Well said. Well interpreted.
All right. World No Tobacco Day. Let's start with you, Dr. Karaoke. What are we talking about here? There seems to be a scientific approach to then be able to quit tobacco use. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, thank you. The World No Tobacco Day is a day that was passed by the member states of World Health Organization when the World Health Organization in 1987 passed a resolution that we need a specific day so that we tell the whole world and the populations living therein the effects of tobacco, the risks of taking tobacco. And the first World No Tobacco Day was commemorated in 1988, and that day was actually set as May 31st every year. So it's a global celebration day. And this year, similarly, it will be on May 31st. And each year, there is a theme. And the theme for this year is unmasking the appeal. That is nicotine and tobacco addiction. And we are looking forward to it because the whole day is supposed to educate the masses and see the best measures thereof that we can reduce the smoking rates and assist those who smoke to quit.
Yeah, so we talk about tobacco consumption and reducing the same in the country today and pretty much across the globe. But one would say, what are some of the things you'd wish Kenya adopts today to help in addressing tobacco consumption in Kenya or lowering the same?
Thank you very much. One thing I'd wish for Kenya to actually accept is that they need to put the science first. Follow the science, lead you to the evidence that we see. We had the 2007 Tobacco Control Act, and what a better time to have this conversation with the World No Tobacco Day being 2 days away, and the bill is there with the National Assembly. From 2007, when it was enacted, the vapes and the nicotine pouches didn't exist, so it was kind of progressive at its time. But now we are here to say, look, the science is here. It clearly shows that there are safer alternatives and less harmful products that adult smokers who have tried to quit over time and have not been able to quit because of the addiction and the number of years or the period that they've been smoking, they've been told, look, here is a safe alternative that you can use. Because now, if you look at it in a way that someone has been smoking 10, 20, 30 years, and I come and tell you, quit cold turkey way, it might not work. But meeting people where they are is what will work, and we'd like for Kenya to adopt the science and follow the evidence. Thank you.
So what are those ways that work? And let's get into the science now. Because, I mean, talk to folks who've been smoking forever and they say, well, you know what, all those things, it doesn't just quite do it for me. So what's the science that can be applied towards quitting? Because if we're going to say no tobacco, that means that people will stop smoking, cigarettes, whatever the case may be. So what's the science behind this?
So the science is independent bodies, research bodies. For example, the Public Health England, they did a research and they realized that 95% of vapes and nicotine pouches, they're 95% less harmful than the tobacco. Why? Because when you smoke the tobacco, the burning, the combustion is where the problem starts. And that's where the toxicants are released most. And that's why you now start getting the lung diseases, the cancer, and the heart disease.
Okay.
However, on this other side, the nicotine has been extracted and it's been put in an e-cigarette and in a nicotine pouch. There's no combustion. There's no combustion. It's only a delivery model of the nicotine. So with that science in place, we're able to have. Thank you. With that science in place, we're able to have a better society. And we're able to help adult smokers quit smoking, the traditional combustible smoking. Yes.
So am I hearing you say that you would rather folks vape and or wear a nicotine patch than smoke a cigarette?
What I'm saying is there are less harmful ways to deliver nicotine. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
With the smoking, the combustion, the fire is the problem because that's where tar is released.
Yes.
With a nicotine pouch, there's no tar, there's no carbon monoxide, but with a cigarette it is. However, if this adult smoker has been unable to quit entirely, there are safer ways of which he can be able to access nicotine and which are less harmful, and the science has shown that they're actually less harmful, and now they're able to even have better lives as they continue with their day-to-day.
Okay, because in a smoker's world, Dr. Karaoke, it's the nicotine that is, quote-unquote, the high. It's the thing that you feel better with, not the combustive aspect of it. That is just in order for you to get the nicotine into your system, right? So if you're saying that you can do away with the combustion, which is what causes the problem, then it's still okay to have nicotine in your system, because that's what you're after.
Yes, let me go back and say that Kenya is a member state of World Health Organization, and Kenya has ratified the Framework Convention for Tobacco Control. Tobacco control is very critical because, as we all know, cigarettes are the only products out there in the market that, if used as intended, will kill you. And 50% of users of cigarettes end up dead. So there are many ways that have come up, brought in by WHO to try and combat or reduce the risks and fight tobacco control. And what we are saying is, if you go back to that Framework Convention and you look at the definition of tobacco control, you realize that tobacco control, as defined by a Framework Convention of Tobacco Control by WHO, says it encompasses a range of supply, demand, and harm reduction strategies, all aimed at reducing the risks and usage of tobacco. What we are saying is that nicotine is the most addictive substance that you can ever find, and we need to have harm reduction strategies, especially targeting the users of tobacco in such a way that those strategies are scientific, evidence-based, so that we assist our smokers to quit tobacco. And our target is the smokers who are smoking. They need to be provided with safer alternatives. Let me also emphasize that there is no safe product. There are always risks. But what you look at are the relative risks in terms of which is more harmful than the other. And without a doubt, when it comes to combustion of cigarettes, they are more harmful. We know that cigarettes and tobacco have more than 7,000 cancer-causing agents. And what we are saying is that we need to embrace science. We need to take the approach of risk proportionate. We do know that in the risk proportionate spectrum of nicotine, cigarettes are the most harmful, and the least harmful in that proportionate spectrum are the nicotine delivery systems, the electronic cigarettes, the nicotine patches. And a lot of science has been put into this to prove actually that this is working. And I can just give you an example. If you look at Public Health England, as it was earlier pointed out, they did a research which showed that electronic cigarettes are 95% safer than combustible cigarettes. When you burn a cigarette, you're consuming so many substances. And as the father of harm reduction stated, Professor Russell, people actually smoke for the nicotine, but they die from the tar. And what we are trying to say is that we need to educate our people that we need to adopt science. We need to adopt these safer alternatives. into assisting our smokers to quit. And at the same note, we need to see how best we can protect our youth and children from these products, because we don't want our youth and children exposed or commence the use of these nicotine products because of their addictiveness.
Yeah. Ansel, so we look at nicotine use in the country, tobacco use in the country, and there has been different ways that has been handled before, and majorly Kenya has handled that through sin tax, always adding taxes on tobacco every other year. But that notwithstanding, people still go and buy and consume. And we've seen that as well. There have been patches that have come in, and we also have seen the government ban some because of the content that they do have. But we've never really sat down as a country to look at how we can use modern ways to address the problem. You know, we've done it through the tax and everything, which has not worked. But would you say now that is this conversation being held on that high level of government, including science, in this conversation? And if not, then how do we start having this conversation as a society?
Thank you. This conversation has been had in the United Kingdom. It has been had in Japan. It has been had in New Zealand. And they have seen that where you can't stop demand, what the best way forward is to control the harm, which is now the tobacco harm reduction. And they've been able to, for example, in Sweden, we can now see that there's a drastic rate of the smokers, up to 5%. Therefore, if they haven't been considered a no smoke country, they should have been by now, because 5% of the average citizen is a very, very small number. And why they've done that is because they've embraced harm reduction. Now, if this conversation is happening there, where I come in as an advocate from Africa Consumer Advocation, I'm telling the consumers, and I'm also telling the regulators, look, let us sit on the same table with the different stakeholders. The adult smokers, their voices need to be heard, because they're the consumers. And if a blanket ban is done on these flavors, that the guys are going to be hurt the most. Yes. And we understand where they're coming from. They're trying to restrict it to children, which is fine, and we concur. And there are ways which we're going to talk about that we can do that. However, as much as we're trying to restrict the children, we can also not punish the adult smokers. And if you have proper regulation and very strict enforcements, it can work, and it will work.
Dr. you see, this conversation most of the time is being held around this time, right? And the example you give of Sweden and European countries, you find that beyond reducing the effects, right? What you're talking about, what they've done is, this is a constant conversation that has painted that nicotine use as being something that is useless. Because I remember the time I visited and they said anyone who's seen smoking is seen as a very useless person in the society, and that has made people to stay back because they don't want to be seen in that bad light. It is not what Kenya would do, but it speaks to the constant communication and engagement with the public on the need of stopping. That we do not see happen in the country today. In terms of sustaining this conversation, what are we doing? What must we do? Instead of just waiting for the day globally for us to talk about it.
Yes, thank you. I agree indeed. This is a conversation that has to be kept alive from the first day of the year to the last day of the year. And I'm happy because as we speak right now, we have discussions on the Tobacco Control Amendment Bill, which currently is at the public participation stage. And we are encouraging all Kenyans to get a copy of this bill. It is live, so that we have an engagement on what this bill is all about, and see what amendments need to be put in place. How do we entrench science into this Tobacco Control Amendment Bill? How do we focus on the smokers because smokers have been left to their own peril by being told quit or die, which is no longer workable. Smoking is a real addiction, which must be handled medically and scientifically. And this conversation needs to continue. We need to be tolerant to each other and listen to each other rather than being dismissive in whatever approach, be it the government, be it the harm reduction experts. And we see how best we can engage this talk, even as we steer the direction of regulation. Regulation is very important, as I earlier pointed out, but at the same time we need to focus on the smoker. Let us not punish the smoker in the name of regulation, because they will be left on their own and they will have no one to assist them.
Why has it been so difficult? Because usually, in order to solve a problem, you have to look at the difficulty of it. Why has it been so difficult to get people who smoke off smoke? Minor.
I would say that this conversation, or rather consumer education, is also one of the things that hasn't been done properly. Because we look at the West and the science is clearly showing that there are products that are way less harmful than the cigarettes that you're smoking. But it looks like here in Africa, it's like we don't have that information. And that's where we come in as an advocacy and do consumer awareness and also educate consumers. Because here you're talking on behalf of the adult consumers, right? And you're telling them, look, I know you've been struggling to quit the traditional way of smoking cigarettes. Now, the science has shown us that we have an alternative. We have safer alternatives that you can use that will help with the cessation of the whole entire product. And then, therefore, you'll be able to have like better lives. Instead now to a point where if the government, let's say, for example, for the bill, they come and say, which is actually what the bill is saying that they want to ban a total blanket ban on the flavors. These flavors is what help adult smokers switch to the safe alternatives because they're palatable. Yeah. Now, if you ban them, we will just now go back to where we were. We will now promote more cigarette smoking because now they don't have a safe alternative. They have nowhere to lean on in a way that they're able to access these safer products. Yeah.
So one of those, like you mentioned before, is the vapes.
Yes.
Are there any contraindications of vaping? What are the risks of vaping as well? And if you did a comparison between that and the traditional cigarette smoking, what would that look like?
Well, let me start by saying that research has shown that electric cigarettes, the vapes, are 95% less harmful. We're not saying that they're 100% risk-free. We're saying they're 95% less harmful. Now, when these products are regulated, consumers will be able to access safer products in terms of the e-cigarettes and the nicotine pouches because they contain nicotine. If that doesn't happen and they're able to access these products in the illicit market, you'll find that the nicotine dosage maybe in those e-cigarettes that people are buying in the black market is what now becomes a real issue because it's unregulated and it no longer becomes a safe product for you. So what we're saying is, I'm not telling you this is a risk-free product. I'm telling you because this is where you're at, you've been unable to quit. I'm telling you it's less harmful than the traditional smoking that you have been doing. Yes.
You know, Dr. we look at vapes as at the moment it is scientifically driven pretty much, right? But we equally look at focusing more on adults who have been unable to quit, right? But on the other hand, many would say that we see young people jumping on vapes as well, which is counterproductive on what it is we want to achieve. So what would you have to say with regard to those who are saying whatever it is you're trying to achieve is not working out because you're seeing more young people getting into it anyway?
Yeah, absolutely. I concur with that. At the same time, harm reduction as a principle, it's a pragmatic principle of trying to reduce harm. And if you do recall, just to take you back, when the era of HIV/AIDS and the introduction of condoms, just to give an example, there were so many counter-arguments that condoms will promote immorality. But from a public health angle, it was very clear that using a condom was safer. It did not necessarily say that it was 100% safe, but it was safer to use a condom. And even giving another example of IV drug users and the methadone program run by the government Ministry of Health that targets users of opiates and needle exchange programs. There are quite a number of counter-arguments that this will promote. What we need to do in as far as safer alternatives for tobacco is to come out with regulations that will protect the youth and children from access. And as harm reduction society, we are saying that if you do not use these products, if you do not smoke, please don't start. We advocate for those who are smokers of cigarettes and who want to quit. And we are saying that they need to be given that opportunity to use these safer alternatives that will assist them to quit. Just to give you an example, in England, in the UK, they have a program called Swap to Stop, whereby the government of UK is providing free electronic cigarettes to cigarette smokers. You walk into a clinic, they have cessation clinics all over. You walk into a clinic and you get a free vape, a free regulated vape, and then you're followed up in that clinic. Number one, to ensure that you put down your cigarette, because without a doubt the cigarette is more harmful than the electronic cigarette they are giving you. And this has been done through science. At the same time, if you look at Japan, they are coming up with regulations of protecting their youth from smoking. For example, some of the electronic cigarettes have biometrics. For you to use that, you must put in your fingerprint and other modalities to try and protect the youth from accessing these products. And that is what we are advocating for, focusing more on the smokers of cigarettes to try and assist them quit by use of these harm reduction strategies. And that is what we are saying. We need to distinguish between combustion of cigarettes and these safer alternatives. Yeah.
Is the factor that you have big, influential, rich companies that are pushing tobacco use and its sale a factor in the inability of governments to stop or push harder for the stop of sale of cigarettes?
I'd say harm reduction is not an invention by the industry. It's an invention that has been used in the various industries that we have here in our country. We've seen alcohol harm reduction. We've seen campaigns on HIV prevention and also the drug programs. So where I speak representing the adult smokers is that we are here to follow the science and the evidence guided by it. And the science clearly shows that we do not want to go back to the days of traditional smoking. We want to live in a day whereby we are able to access safer and regulated products with the support of the government, whereby any product that is being imported or manufactured is regulated by the bodies that are supposed to be doing that, and the end consumer is able now to access this safer product.
But what I'm saying is that the manufacturers of tobacco products, specifically cigarettes, are deep-pocketed companies. Do they have any influence over the prolonged use of cigarettes in jurisdictions whereby there's influence over governments and their policy as well?
Well, you see, about the manufacturers, I'm here on behalf of the consumers, the adult consumers of these products. So what my point here is that we're not going to come here and say that these products that are being brought in the country or manufactured in the country that are here to now cause harm or also to benefit certain people. No, we're here to say that adult consumers, they have the right to access these safer products because the science has shown them. And just because that maybe the same person who was importing the cigarette or making it, the same person who's doing the safe alternatives, that one has no correlation with the consumer at hand. The point is that these guys are supposed to be able to access a safer, regulated alternative.
Dr. When you still talk about manufacturers and the alternatives that are there in the market, you realize that the manufacturers would not want to see anything that would get them out of business. So one would argue that manufacturers would want to maintain the status quo because that is how they make their bread and butter. But for this conversation as well to be there, the manufacturers must be front and center. Why? Because regulators are in one way or the other. So are we seeing manufacturers changing how they're doing businesses and are embracing new ways of selling these products? Are we seeing them investing in science to lower tobacco use?
Let me just say that if you go back to World Health Organization and the Framework Convention, it's quite clear, of which Kenya is a member state. It's quite clear on involvement of the industry and the government. We know very well that the cigarette industry is legal in this country.
Yes.
But it is incumbent upon the Ministry of Health to educate Kenyans and bring up measures to reduce the risks and morbidity and mortality associated with cigarettes. On the issue of these new products, let me just give you a short history. The first e-cigarette was actually produced in China in 2003, not even by the industry, by a pharmacist called Dr. Hon Lik. And the purpose or what drove him to produce this electronic cigarette was because he was a chain smoker and he had seen his father die out of smoking. And it clearly tells you that this innovation is not an innovation from the industry or whoever. It's something that is innovative. And we have so many players coming up with these inventions. And the whole idea is to focus on the smoker, to try and see how best they can be assisted to quit smoking. Let me also take you back in as far as taxation is concerned. And we know very well that the Ministry of Health does receive about 2% of taxation from all these products in a special tax called solatium. And the purpose of that, as defined by law, is to assist in educating the public and lowering the risks of tobacco use and getting to see how best can the number of smokers go down. How can we assist these smokers medically to quit smoking? So at the end of the day, these innovative mechanisms that are out there, just like we saw with COVID, we had so many innovators coming up with vaccines, and the whole idea is that they are driven by the desire to see better outcomes.
Harm reduction being pushed by the organization is not just for you, right? Government as well is involved. Non-governmental organizations are in that space. So then one asks the question, as this is focused on the user, right? What is the role of government then in this conversation? Because if government doesn't invest in it, it would be, one would assume, a tad bit difficult for you to achieve your goals. So how are we working together both as stakeholders in this space to ensure that the overall goal, which is to lower the effects of the same, are achieved?
Thank you. The government role mainly is regulation. You see that when these products are available in the market, the government bodies, let's say KEBS, is supposed to regulate on these products as safer alternatives. Look at it when you're talking of a flavored cigarette and a flavored nicotine product, which is an alternative. Those are two different things, because this cigarette, as much as it's flavored, there's still combustion, right? And that's where there's the vast harm. Now, on this other side, the safer alternative, which, yes, has nicotine, there's no combustion, it's less harmful, right? Now, there's no way you will regulate a bicycle the same way you regulate a truck.
Okay.
It doesn't work. It doesn't make sense. But we are saying, let's come together on the same table and discuss. The committee has the different members in it, but I don't think the committee has the consumer voice. We are saying, involve us. Let's show you the science. Let's show you the evidence that we have. We have seen it work here, and I believe it can also work here. Therefore, Kenya as a country can take this opportunity to be the lead in the Change of Tobacco Control Act, and hence the other countries now can be able to follow suit in Africa.
Is that concerted conversation taking place where everybody who needs to be on the table is actually on the table having the conversation, or are we still waiting for an invite?
You're waiting for an invite.
Okay.
Yeah.
It sounds like something a little bit more serious to wait and say we have to be here if we're going to move anything, because that goes to my previous question, whereby who's controlling this conversation, and others who need to be in the conversation. If we're waiting for an invite, it may not ever come.
Yes, and that's why we need proper public participation. Yes, and which is what lacked when it was in the Senate, and that's what we're actually asking for now that it's in the National Assembly. Let's have proper public participation so that we're able now to... We're not actually defying the Tobacco Control Amendment. We want it to go through. However, we just need to change those few things. Include us. Give us ample time for this proper public participation to happen, and then thereafter, even when it comes to the products being retailed outside, whether online or at point of sale, when someone is involved in a decision-making process, they take it as a responsibility to make sure that they follow the law. Yes.
What are the challenges from where you sit? Because there's obviously a crossover here between medicine, medical practice, and policy making, and of course the law. What are the challenges that you see to getting to this place where actually there will be no tobacco use?
Well, one of the main challenges is misinformation. We have a lot of misinformation out there. Let me put it very clear that nicotine is not tobacco. Nicotine is a constituent of tobacco. Nicotine is not carcinogenic. It does not cause cancer. That has also been stated by WHO. And what we are trying to say is that we need product differentiation. You cannot lump these safer alternatives in the same boat as cigarettes. And that is the conversation that we need to have, that we must embrace science. We must look at what is science telling us and how best can we take this approach. As Harm Reduction Society, we are for regulation, but we need to have our voices heard. We need to see how best can we assist smokers to quit, because we've been having this conversation for many years. And when new products come on board that have been proven effective elsewhere, from Sweden to Japan to the UK. It's something that we really need to have a conversation on and see how best can we tackle this issue of tobacco control as envisioned by Framework Convention of Tobacco Control, which clearly had harm reduction strategies in its definition of tobacco control.
Yeah. Doc, I'll still remain on that, and you'd find anyone who's smoking and you just have a conversation, they would tell you, nimejaribu kanishinda. At times nasikia baridi, nataka joto, nasema acha nivute moja, despite them trying, you know. And here now we're looking at centers of help, if there are any, a place where individuals can just get together and even have a conversation about it, as well as how is price of these scientifically led inventions, then the price of that inhibiting many from quitting, because cost is also a factor. So does this conversation then need to get to a point where if we are importing, we have tax rebates because it is helping the overall health of the country? At least the kind of conversations that then we must be having with the government, with parliament, in terms of having a solution that covers everything.
Yes, indeed. And the first conversation is to ensure that whatever gets in is safe. Because as we speak right now, we have so many products out there in the market with very high nicotine content, simply because they are not regulated. So from a point of safety, we must begin by ensuring that these products that are available out there are safe. They have the recommended, because we have the recommended nicotine levels that will assist smokers to quit. And that's where we need to begin as we progress towards embracing some of these products for tobacco control. Yes.
Ansem, are we saying in a space where you are, right? The smokers who are there and they're saying, Ansem, yes, I want to quit, but nimeshindwa. In the event that is the conversation that someone then is having with you, what next steps do you take? Because there's someone who clearly needs assistance. There's someone who clearly wants to stop. There are alternatives that perhaps they are not aware of. So talk to us about the level of disinformation being with the public, and if at all you would reckon that people know about these alternatives that are there.
Thank you. That's what we would call consumer education, right? That's what we would call consumer education. So I'm able to talk to you and tell you that these products that you have been consuming, I understand that you're addicted and you're trying to quit, right? Now, there's evidence and there's science that has shown there's a safer way to access the delivery of this nicotine. Now, when it comes to the common mwananchi, you're able to use dialogues where they can be able to, they're relatable with, you know? You kind of compare now the harm reduction with maybe their day-to-day lives. You talk of belting up when you're driving. You talk of putting on a helmet when you're on a boda. The same now with that trajectory, you're now heading now into the harm reduction space of the product that it is that you're trying to get them away from. And you find now that they'll be able to understand, oh, yes, this one is bad, it's not good. Here we have the safer alternative, which you'll get the same, whatever it is that you're looking for, because nicotine is in both, products. However, one way of consuming it is safer than the other. So please try and consume these products, these safer alternatives, as a way to help you put down that cigarette. For a healthier future, even for our nation.
What about the cost factor? Which are more expensive, and would the cost factor be an encouragement or turn off to then making the change?
Well, we need these products affordable, because we can't say that we will only cater for the middle to the high income earners who are the smokers, and we know a very good percentage of the low income cadre are more into smoking and the number is going up. But if you're able to come up with ways where this product can be able to reach the low-income person and the high and the middle-class person, it will be a game changer. So that now, whether you're talking of the e-cigarette or you're talking about the vapors, whoever is in control of that, they're able to say that, look, we have this product in this type. The same way you go to the shops and you can buy margarine for 10 bob and you can buy margarine for 500 bob, right? If you can be able to do that, we're able to solve a problem. So let's keep it in a way and have a conversation where do we meet these people where they are.
But are they cheaper? At the moment, are the alternatives that we're speaking of cheaper than what's available right now?
What's available right now?
Cigarettes.
I'd say cigarettes.
Okay, let me ask it like this.
Yeah.
Are vapes and or patches cheaper than cigarettes today?
No, today they're not.
Okay.
Yeah. Today they're not. And that's why we are saying they need to be. And why they need to be is because they are safer. Yeah. You can't have a product that's safer than the other, more expensive than the harmful one. It's not right, even from a consumer perspective, right? But if you're able to come up with ways where these products are able to be accessed by the consumers with the different cadres that they're in, from the high to the low, it would be a very progressive situation whereby everyone is able to access help and they're able now to put down that cigarettes because now this product has finally become
cheaper
and accessible and regulated.
So who's to be spoken to about making it cheaper? The manufacturers, those who are giving it license for sale within country, or are these all of the people that you say need to be on the table, Dr.
Yeah, the cost of a product is determined by so many factors, but one of the key factors is taxation. And we are calling upon product differentiation. For example, let me give you a good example. Currently, what is recommended for smoking cessation in this country, what we call nicotine replacement therapies and therapeutics, such as nicotine patches, nicotine gums, medications such as varenicline, bupropion, are not cheap. And one of the reasons we found out why they are not affordable is because they have been lumped up together with cigarettes.
Okay.
So taxation becomes a big issue. Even as we embrace these other safer alternatives and adopt regulatory mechanisms, we need to address taxation and have these products. We view them as essential medicines. Actually, nicotine replacement therapies are part of WHO's essentials list of medicine. And we are saying that we need to make them affordable by looking at what incentives can government give to make these therapeutics affordable.
Yeah. Anselm, I want to look at if today you had an opportunity of speaking to adult smokers who are finding it very difficult to quit, what would be your message to them? As well as, do you have any evidence of or a case study of an individual who moved from tobacco smoking to using the harmful weeds and finally not using anything altogether?
Thank you. Before I get even to the adult smokers, I would start by saying, before I get to the adult smokers, I would start by saying, if you're not using these products, please don't start. Now, to the adult smokers who have been using these products, the best way is to quit. But if you've been unable to quit, there's a safer way of nicotine delivery, which is you can use the safer alternatives, the e-cigarettes and the nicotine pouch. Yes, I've come across a few individuals. As of 3 weeks ago, there's an individual I met. He's been smoking for the last 15 years, and at the point where he got to learn about the safer alternatives, it was a game changer for him. Yeah, he's now even he's taking up sports. Yeah, he's playing paddle, he's running, because now once he stopped the cigarette smoking, the guy's quality of life has become better. Yes. And he's not the only one. There are quite a few. But we are saying, we are not here to say that it's a quit or die. No. We are meeting you where you are. And where you are, us as an organization, we care. We hear you. So we want you informed, we want you educated, and we want you heard. So that by the time even this bill is coming to be passed, your voices were actually heard, and whatever it is that you wanted the government and the leaders to do for us have done it in a way that we are able now to control these products, regulate them, make them safer. By safer, I actually mean whereby we're not pushing these guys to the illicit market, but they're able to access regulated products that have been regulated by KEBS, and also with the approvals that needs to be done by the time these guys are coming now with the product in the market. So as for the adult smokers, we hear you, and we are here for you. As Africa Consumer Advocacy Foundation, we are ready to help where we can. Thank you.
And here's to World No Tobacco Day. That's happening on the 31st of May, which is Sunday, and all of these things taken into consideration to get insights into what this fight actually looks like. Gentlemen, both of you, thank you for joining us this morning to then go through that. And, as the strides are made, that these recognitions will happen, is that why we're all here. Ansel Minor is a founder, Africa Consumer Advocacy Foundation. Dr. Karaoke Michael, Secretary General of the Harm Reduction Society of Kenya. Thank you, gentlemen, both of you.
Thank you.
Asante sana. Everybody, thank you for keeping it here at the Situation Room this whole week. Have yourselves a good weekend. Be at peace. We'll talk again when we can. Good morning. It's 10 a.m.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Good morning. This is the news. I'm Sheila Tembor. The High Court has temporarily stopped the government from establishing or operating any Ebola quarantine or treatment facility in Kenya linked to the U.S. or any foreign government. Justice Patricia Nyaundi issued a conservatory order after certifying the matter